Gav is right.
Gav's a fucking bullshit.
Hey, all the best to Ireland. See you in the semis.
We support the Irish. The Irish.
OTBAM, Ireland's only sports breakfast show, live from 7:30am every morning.
OTB Sports Radio. OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
There's a momentous 6 days ahead of Irish sport. Tomorrow we're in Geneva against the Swiss, with now victory almost a prerequisite given how badly we played at the weekend against Georgia. It's not quite a do-or-die situation. Another scratchy draw will be enough for us to at least have an interest in the final game against Denmark, who may indeed have nothing to play for. So who knows? Maybe Mick McCarthy has been rope opening the entire group and the rest of the footballing world with his strategy to get us all the way through to the Euros. 2 games in Ireland, remember. 2 games in Dublin. 2 home matches at a major football championships for the first and only time, more than likely, ever. So what an opportunity is currently being spurned by the Irish football team. We'll get into the details and the nitty-gritty of that a little bit later on, but it's to rugby that we're going to go first because Johnny Sexton has been out in front of the media in the last while. Ireland are now up against the All Blacks next Saturday afternoon. And, well, at this stage, you know, most of the rugby world doesn't feel particularly confident about Ireland's chances, but the Irish camp are starting to feel pretty confident. They think they're coming to the ball nicely. Have a look.
I suppose a lot of negativity around us has, we feel, has been a little bit strange, but you know, we're pretty confident and pretty positive in how we've been building. Obviously, we'd like to be playing better at times in some regards, but I think hopefully we can put that out there on Saturday now. Yeah,
we're going to get over to our old man Eoin Sheahan in just a couple of minutes' time and get more of that Johnny Sexton press conference for you. Some great stuff coming from it. We'll spare the details for just another couple of minutes. 7:31 this morning. Let's go back to the football. Cunningham and Richie McCormack coming up a little bit later on. We're going to be asking the question, does this man have to start?
Yeah, obviously, as a striker, I think I've got to score that second one. It's a bit disappointing, obviously, in a game like that. I think no matter what age you have to put that away. So it is disappointing, but obviously it's a proud night as well for me.
That's Aaron Connolly speaking after his debut. 12 minutes was all he got from the Republic of Ireland manager, and in those 12 minutes he showed that he was clearly the best option that we have. Even no matter who's fit or unfit or in the squad or not in the squad, Aaron Connolly is now surely a nailed-on starter and our best player when it comes to the attacking third of the pitch. Anyway, let's go on because obviously we're up against the All Blacks. In the summer of 2018, it seems not that long ago now, New Zealand journalist Chris Rattue told us to hand over the Rugby World Cup to the All Blacks. We're going to check in later to see if anything has changed.
It does sound, though, like it might not be time to jump the gun. It might not be time to hand over the William Webb Ellis trophy right now.
I just thought I'd do it now, mate. No, I really do. I think at their best, I got to say, at their best, what I think's developing there, I can't see anyone beating them.
I mean, it's hard to disagree, right? Unless you are looking at Japan's performance in the first 35-40 minutes of the game at the weekend when they were absolutely sensational against Scotland, but then, you know, the second half did happen as well. We've also got the very latest. I know you've been waiting all weekend for this. We've got the very latest from the Irish rugby fans in Japan. Have a look.
Devon Toner's been going very well in training back home. I heard we should bring him out. We'll beat New Zealand if we have Devon Toner. Apparently he's 2 foot taller than he was when we left here. You're not getting anything out of me, you dirty Ballock. All we need is a bit of Dev. All we need is Dev.
Right. I don't think any of those guys are going to get their wish. Right, kick-off. We've just started 7:33. After that, we're going to talk Johnny Sexton because he's been out in front of the press this morning. Let's obviously get Johnny Sexton out early, get the confidence going, make everybody feel pretty happy about the fact that he's fit, playing well, kicking his goals. Got to get to our man in Japan, Eoin Sheahan, just now. Sports pages with Tommy coming at 7:50. You can use the hashtag OTBAM to get involved in any of our conversations this morning, by the way. After that, Kenny Cunningham is going to talk to us about Ireland's performance the weekend. Now, obviously, Kenny played a lot of football under Mick, and you know, he's a glass half full with the Mick McCarthy era. So we'll see what he has to say after the 0-0 draw at Georgia at the weekend. Richie, our man in Geneva, who is our man in Tbilisi, we'll talk to him about what the sense around the team is. There's a growing belief that Aaron Connolly will start the game. Maybe he should have started the game against the inferior opposition as well, to give him the opportunity to be up to the pitch of the game for the good team. But, you know, we had James Collins to play, who obviously was so great in that friendly against Bulgaria. Rugby World Cup 2019, going back to that around about 8:35 this morning. Alan Quinlan's going to join us to give us his thoughts on how things are going. The Irish Rugby fans' reaction. Chris Rattue on New Zealand, who, he was calling it. He was calling it that New Zealand were the best team in the world way back in summer 2018, and he might have been right. We're going to talk to him around about 9 o'clock our time. Sports news and Phil's picks, 9:15. Hashtag OTBAM. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at OffTheBallAM is the Twitter handle, and the best place to get us as well is on youtube.com/OffTheBall. If you subscribe there every time that we go live, we'll ping you with a little notification. If you want to listen to us as a radio show, then we're a full radio station, full-blown radio station available for you. Just download the Go Loud app and click on OTB Sports Radio, or of course you can just go on to offtheball.com/radio, and we're there for you the whole time. Now let's go to Japan. Eoin, Sheahan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger. How are things?
You're in the airport.
I am. I'm in Fukuoka Airport now, just looking out over a couple of the planes here, going to take off in the next 2 hours and head back to Tokyo. I should say that it's my first time experiencing this side of a Japanese airport, and it is like every other element of Japanese society, as in it's ridiculously pleasant. I just checked in a bag there that was 10 kg overweight. Didn't say a thing about it. I casually, left a bottle of water behind me before I went through security just now because I couldn't find a bin. A man came running out and he was like, "Yeah, you forgot your 1 litre bottle of water there. Bring it with you." So it's just a generally pleasant experience like the rest of the country has been. So looking forward to getting back to Tokyo now this evening. It's going to be a big 5 days.
Flights okay, no problems, no issues post Typhoon?
As in, you just show up and they give you a new one. Basically, they're used to that sort of stuff this time of the year. ANA is the airline I'm with, so they've looked after me very, very well over the last couple of days. I think it's fair to say, and pretty much all the journalists have been sorted. As soon as the typhoon is hit, just log on, change your flights, and they could handle it pretty well. So it's really been incredible watching how this place has recovered over the last couple of days, even from afar. Like, I haven't been up there obviously, but to get that game played yesterday was incredible. To get fans, 70,000 of them into the stadium, was incredible. After a ridiculous amount of rainfall previous night, to get that turned around within 24 hours was a serious achievement, and I don't think it was hyperbole when we kind of heard the commentators talk about the special moment that it was, given the context of everything yesterday evening. I'm just really gutted I wasn't there. I had accreditation, I had a ticket to go to Yokohama last night, and it was the biggest level of FOMO I've ever felt, because even just through the TV screen you could sense it was amazing.
Yeah, and so in Fukuoka, was there any sense after the game was over last night that Japan had won, topped their group, gone through to the quarterfinals? Was there a sense that there was a national sporting occasion happening?
Yeah, there was. The pubs here were pretty busy. There was people cheering on. Like, the place just stopped still with the television on in the corner, perhaps, on a Sunday evening. Like, it's not a particularly busy town, or the part I was in wasn't particularly busy, but everybody who was in a restaurant or a pub had the right to do this. Like, I'm sure you saw the scenes on Shibuya Crossing yesterday with Japanese people dancing at the crossroads, to use that phrase, in their own most famous in the world crossroad in Tokyo last night. This thing has captured the imagination. We can talk about legacy of it for years to come on a different date, but for now, rugby is here and this country is absolutely obsessed with it. We have a huge part to play in that, because I think really since the win in Shizuoka against Ireland, just things have gone up to a whole new level. Every town I've been in on match night has just been buzzing, really. Every pub has been buzzing for Japan.
All right, let's move on, because we want to talk about Johnny Sexton. Here he is talking about Ireland's performance in the pool and the squad's take on the negativity around the team. Have a look.
We've been building, I think, pretty well. Apart from that poor sort of 60 minutes against Japan, everything else has pretty much gone to plan. I suppose a lot of the negativity around us we feel has been a little bit strange, but we're pretty confident and pretty positive in how we've been building. Obviously, we'd like to be playing better at times in some regards, but I think hopefully we can put that out there on Saturday now. No, like we're very self-critical. Like we're critical of ourselves in terms of our performances, and obviously after the Japan game we would have liked to have done things differently, but we kind of knew what good a team Japan were, so we always knew that could happen if we didn't play well, and it did happen. No, it's not a talking point. It's something that we just get a sense of, when you get texts saying keep the head up, we're still behind you. You get a feeling that there's some things out there that aren't great. And, Shuckers gives us the lowdown before we come in here what to expect. So we know that, things weren't great, but it's funny when you compare things to some people trying to compare it to 07 when they just scraped past Namibia and we beat Georgia or Russia 35-0. How there can be comparisons there, I'm not quite sure, in totally different conditions. But look, we are where we are. We're exactly where we want to be in terms of quarter-final, and now we're going to do everything we can for this week to put ourselves out there, and hopefully that can get us the right results. We know that we could play to our potential and still not get it, so we just got to make sure we do our part and really go for it.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing, Eoin, isn't it? They really could play brilliantly in this game, but they're up against the best team in the world, and so they need something else apart from us playing really well to go our direction. Yeah,
they need a bit of luck. They need a referee to perhaps screw over New Zealand on one or two things, which we're not going to get, quite frankly. So a slice of luck here or there. We need a couple of Jacob Stockdale chips and chases that bounce his way, just like they did last year in November 2018. So we need a few things, but like one of the things that has gone our way is that we were speaking in the build-up about how Samoa is a tricky last game because they will bring the physicality, they will bring brute force, they will target the likes of Sexton and Murray, and no doubt it could be anything like a bloodbath that we experienced in 2015. That has not happened. The Bundy Aki situation aside, we will have fit and ready 30 players out of the 31 to go into this game this weekend. Now, the Aki hearing is tonight. By another quirk of fate, if we really are on form in terms of our luck this week, he could get off the hook, but I'd be very surprised if that happened for this weekend. But it is very, very different to how it was 4 years ago, and Sexton was also making the point that you had this emotional high against France in 2015, where you feel like you've won a trophy, or you've just put in a magnificent moment of Irish sporting history to get out of your pool. And he kind of was like sneering about that sort of being so celebratory around a pool win 4 years ago, but that hasn't happened this time. I think because we've dipped after Japan, it's all been about saving face, and now we're ready to attack the All Blacks in a huge underdog position. So from an Irish psyche point of view, I don't think we could be in a better place, because the Irish psyche is not suited to the arrogance, to the being world number one, to being better than the All Blacks, or that sort of facade that we had going a year ago. So I think we're well equipped to cause this shock, but there are things outside of our control that will need to fall Ireland's way for sure.
He seemed pretty confident. Like the stuff about hearing from home about the negativity, it almost as if they were bulletproof. I think, and maybe of all of the team, Sexton is the one who's allowed to be the most confident, given that he didn't play in the Japan game, and you can definitely feel like if he had been on from the 20th minute forward, then perhaps we would have played a very different game. It wouldn't have been the same opportunity for Japan to get back into the match, and we might have been riding towards a South African quarter-final.
For sure, and I think Sexton probably realises the game plan that is required to beat Japan, and it is don't do what Scotland did last night. Don't do what Ireland did for 60 minutes against them. It's still bizarre how Scotland managed to look at that Ireland game and not glean from it anything that might be able to put them in a position to actually beat Japan last night, especially in that middle quarter of the game, or the middle third of the game, really, when Scotland just clearly looked like they hadn't watched Ireland play. But had Sexton been on the pitch, he is our most tactically aware player, he would have been able to implement things like that. When you mention our one player who is bulletproof, who is on a level of confidence, I think it's clear that Sexton is that guy. I mean, the Irish, if you think about who they're putting up for media, like they're making a point when they put Johnny Sexton up on Monday of the biggest week of the year, the biggest week of the careers of a lot of these players. They know that he is the guy who can toe the line. He is the most confident player. He's the best person to put in front of the media and lead the charge from the front when it comes to the back pages tomorrow morning, I should say, and on the radio today. So, yeah, for sure, there's confidence there. Sexton embodies that. This is a team that's going in to win this weekend. There's no question about it. It's a bit of a long shot is all.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the dynamics between the respective coaches are this week as well. When does Schmidt do? He always does media on the Tuesday, does he, of the week? And then again after captain's run, or when do you expect to see Schmidt this week?
No, it'll be team announcement on Thursday. So
that's it.
Press tomorrow. Yeah. So like he did a couple of Tuesdays during the warm-up games because things were not going great. So he kind of fronted up and faced the cameras the Tuesday, a couple of days after Twickenham at the start of the warm-ups. And I think he did it a couple of weeks later as well, just to try and address things, just try and put things straight if he feels there's been miscommunication, or if he feels perhaps the media coverage has been a bit too harsh. But yeah, so we'll expect to see him on Thursday once the team is announced, and we will hear from the RFU this evening, probably just a statement though, when it comes to Bundy Aki's hearing. So 11:30 a.m. Irish time, he faces a 3-man independent committee in Tokyo. Derek Hegarty, the solicitor, has been flown over to Japan to help in the appeal process. He's a former scrum half of Terranure College and Leinster. He's going to help Bundy Aki when it comes to an appeals process after tonight, and then we'll have press again tomorrow morning. Now, one of the things that's obviously been a big talking point, and it will continue to be a big talking point over the next couple of days, and I've just mentioned it there already, is the difference between now and 4 years ago. Granted, the opposition is way harder than the opposition we had 4 years ago, but we're in a far stronger spot than we were 4 years ago. To go into this game, as I mentioned, with 30 fit players ready to go, and that's not including Bundy Aki, we're in a very, very good spot. And Sexton was asked about this earlier on. He was asked about the difference between this coming week and the week leading into Argentina in 2015.
Yeah, it makes a big difference having everyone fit, even just for the quality of training. I remember that Argentina week, we had to rely on guys like Vinny and Shuckers to be running against us, and it wasn't the best quality opposition we could have asked for, physically and personally. So it was that was probably the reason we lost Argentina. But this week we have everyone fit, so we've 2 good sides of training, and we'll be able to make the most of it.
Connolly, just on your own personal form, obviously the other night, you seem to be really back to close to your best. How do you feel it's going to go?
You never feel too far away from your best. You just feel sometimes things just don't go your way in one regard or another. An eagle or two, or sometimes at 10 you can make mistakes that might look like your fault, and they often aren't. Often you can make mistakes that are totally your fault. But I never lost confidence in what I can do, and I don't think much 10s do lose confidence. When they go through bad patches, you just know that they're part and parcel, and you come out the other side. And I was happy with some parts on Saturday, other parts like to brush up a few things on for New Zealand, and I'll need to play better on Saturday, and we all will to get the right results.
No mistakes be your fault, would it?
No.
So, Eoin, people who are listening to us on OTB Sports Radio, who is sitting beside Johnny Sexton?
That's Vinny Hammond, very funny guy, very witty guy. He's a video analyst with Ireland, so he's a good guy to have up this week, because he mentioned that their hard work is actually kind of done from a video analysis point of view, because if you're coming into a week against the All Blacks in a World Cup quarter-final and you've started your work on the All Blacks this week, you're probably not going to get the work done come Saturday. So they've been looking at them for the last couple of years. They've studied them. They know exactly what the game plan is. They have the blueprint down. And now this week is all about execution. So I guess his work is largely done, although I'm sure he's been getting through the latest games in the World Cup with the All Blacks. So Vinny Hammond was up. Naturally, when you're sitting beside Johnny Sexton, you don't get a lot of questions asked of you, but he's an interesting character inside the camp as well. Would have played with Sexton, I'm not sure if it's at schools or at underage level, so they'd know each other quite well and have a very good relationship. So this week is going to be interesting on that level in terms of what we're going to see from a tactical perspective, because there is a theory out there that perhaps they've been holding something back tactically in the pool stages. I did put that to Sexton as well in that press conference, and he did kind of mention it, that we have been holding a few things, and we've seen that they executed a game plan against the All Blacks last year. It'll be interesting to see if our game plan against this opposition has developed 11 months on.
Yeah, it definitely will be. And the other thing that's going to happen this week is that Steve Hansen is going to do press. He's already done press. He's been talking about Joe Schmidt and saying, we know Joe. I'm just going to try and find these comments here. The mind games have begun a little bit.
Yeah, he was saying that Joe likes to prepare quite a lot. That can be a good thing or that can be a bad thing. And then he was talking about kind of selling him down the river sort of thing.
I might be able to set him up.
Yeah, that was the line. So I presume what he means by that is some kind of false hands being shown in pool games in the World Cup this year. But it's it's interesting. If it's Eddie Jones or if it's Warren Gatland or if it's Steve Hansen, the three of them are absolutely brilliant at lobbing grenades. So it'll be interesting to see what Schmidt has to say to that later on in the week.
Yeah, and that's why I was kind of hoping that he would be out a little bit. But look, these two obviously know each other very well. They shared a pre-match moment certainly a couple of years ago on the pitch where they were chatting away and it was all fine, and they seem to be kind of quite friendly privately and in public, capable of giving each other the type of barbs that with Gatland you expect it isn't actually privately all grand. It's kind of it seems like there's a bit of theatre to how these two interact.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, Steve Hansen, when it comes to criticising other teams, I'm not sure really have much to stand over this week when his team are sitting on a 13-day turnaround and his opposition are sitting on, a 6-7 day turnaround. So it's clearly weighted massively in New Zealand's favour when it comes to the way this whole tournament has been set up and the way the last few days have fallen. So I'm sure that'll be touched on over the next couple of days, because it's advantage New Zealand when it comes to talent, when it comes to form, but it's also advantage New Zealand in the way this tournament has fallen as well. So everything's in Steve Hansen's favour, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, but you're not buying the narrative that they're going to be undercooked. I mean, according to Steve Hansen, their training session on Friday was savage. The GPS figures were somewhat even above what you would expect from a full-blown match. So you're obviously not buying the undercooked narrative that we're trying to sell.
No, absolutely not. I'm not sure if we're going to try and sell that narrative. I think what we're going to try and sell is what Ireland can gain from playing every single week. And Tyke Furlong mentioned it yesterday, said he likes to actually play every week. And it's, to be fair, if it was 5-day turnaround, maybe it becomes an issue, but they do have a full week to actually get things right, and tiredness shouldn't be a thing. But you can forget about New Zealand being undercooked. I mean, they get ashamed by anything that's not winning the World Cup comfortably. So beating Ireland in a World Cup quarter-final comfortably is the minimum requirement for them, you would suspect.
Oh, and you had your very first ever documentary out yesterday. How did it go?
Oh, it went well. It got aired, made it to air, and it went from start to finish on the radio. So that's always a positive when it comes to a radio documentary. It was about the '96 brawl, and I enjoyed it.
It's called what?
I enjoyed making it. It's called Brawl.
Okay.
And that's it's just a snappy one-word title to describe probably the most crazy 20 to 40 seconds that's ever happened in an All-Ireland final in either code, I think. So some funny retellings.
Martin O'Connell's book is being serialised this morning, so you can have a second version where you can incorporate some of Martin O'Connell's comments.
Right. I was wondering, I saw the Martin O'Connell stuff in the newspaper. I didn't realise that he's got a book out. These two things are not linked, and there is no real hook for this, except for the fact that it's just a good story to tell. I think there was a couple of new nuggets in the documentary. Like, I mean, I've tried my best to pour through archives and stuff. I mean, Lee McHale talking about getting prophetic hate mail from Dublin about how something would go badly wrong for him in the replay was a line I hadn't heard before. John Casey says he still has nightmares about the All-Ireland final in '96. And then David Brady's description of what was going through his mind in the middle of the brawl is worth listening alone. It's just hilarious. It's absolutely funny. It's phenomenal stuff from Brady in that section when the brawl actually happened. So I think it's worth a listen, but then again, I'm biased.
You can get it on the Go Loud app or indeed offtheball.com/podcasts. Owen, safe flights up to Tokyo. The Ireland team obviously probably have already moved to Tokyo. They're staying in Tokyo for the next week. The All Blacks staying, are they staying close to each other? Are they all in like preordained team hotels, or how does it work?
No, so it depended on where you finished in the pool as to where you would actually stay. So Ireland wanted, if they finished top of the pool, to stay, I think, closer to the city centre, but they've gone back out to Chiba now. They're going to be staying in the Hilton in Chiba, which is where the Springboks stayed for their first week in Tokyo. So that's where Disneyland is. Basically, you'll have to get on the Mickey Mouse train, literally, to get out to the Ireland team hotel over the next couple of days. So they flew up to Tokyo about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago at this point. So they'll settle in, and then they're back to training tomorrow.
All right. Good stuff on. I'll see you on Wednesday, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Safe flight yourself, sure.
Thanks, William.
Bring good luck. Bring a pot of shamrocks or whatever brings good luck from Ireland. I don't know why was I just getting stereotypically anti-Irish there for a second?
Sugary Lucky Charms, I think is the phrase you're looking for. American cereal Lucky Charms, giving kids diabetes for 3 decades. Right, good stuff.
We'll see you at the karaoke bar.
Yeah, good luck. Tommy, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger.
You're here to see the papers?
Yeah, you're looking forward to tomorrow?
I am. Well, not really. It's 16 hours of spending
some trip.
18 hours.
It'll be worth it though when we beat the All Blacks.
36 hours in 6 days on a plane.
Wow.
Yeah. Not good for the... my inner Greta Thunberg is like...
You'll sleep. You'll be all right.
Well, if anybody has any sleeping tablets that they want to donate to the cause, I'm happy to send a taxi. That's how these things work, isn't it?
Yeah. Johnny Sexton was in good form this morning?
Yeah, it looked like it. You've seen most of it.
Yeah, he's not worried, so he's telling us. I wasn't too worried last week. You were.
About this game?
In general.
Well, just in general, I mean, it hasn't exactly gone to plan. I realise that, you know, I mean, if you're... It hasn't gone to plan.
like it's easy to paint it whatever way you like.
It is.
But that line from Sexton about they were comparing us to Namibia in 2007, yet we bet Russia 35-0. It's quite telling. Like, what do we expect? Do we expect them to walk in 13 tries in every game and then be ready to face the All Blacks?
No, you just wanted everybody to reach this stage of the tournament and everybody be fit, which is kind of what we've got to.
Happened.
Yeah.
We've been building slowly. And
I mean, you'd prefer to be playing Springboks, really. If we were playing Springboks, we would have talked ourselves into, oh, geez, they're fierce big and Felix Jones knows the calls, they're going to have to change all the calls. So, like, either way, it is our natural, let's talk ourselves into massive underdog territory, and that might be the bit where we, get a victory.
Yeah, at least we're here now at the quarterfinals. Yeah. All the action starts.
Exactly. Japan were amazing. Did you see the Japan game?
I saw most of it, yeah, they're unbelievable.
First half of that, what are they doing?
It's kind of like, do you know what? That's even backing up why Ireland are perhaps we're a little undercooked against them, you know?
Somebody definitely, one of my WhatsApp groups was like, oh no, we just have to revisit our entire... It turns out Japan are brilliant and we're actually really good.
They're sensational. They're going to beat South Africa in the quarter-final.
New Zealand are 12-point favourites for the game against Ireland.
That's good.
I think they were 16-point favourites when we whooped them in Chicago. We were at that game.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. The Irish Times this morning. Ireland attempt to scale All Black Mountain with spring in their step. So we got a spring in our step. It's a big old week coming up, but it's a brilliant pace to beat, says Andy Farrell. McCarthy toys with starting Connolly. I mean, he should be doing more than that. Exhilarating Japan announce arrival on the big stage. I mean, surely Japan can join the Rugby Championship. Wouldn't they be?
Absolutely. There's been talk of it, I think, before. It's like Argentina in there.
Well, they had the club teams and then they got rid of the club teams in Super Rugby.
They had one of the club teams, yeah.
And then their back page is, I want to inspire many people that no human is limited. Kipchoge undecided over Olympic title defence after history-making run. So records in both the men's and women's marathons at the weekend. Although this one obviously doesn't count.
Kipchoge, no. There's people obviously saying that it was more of a science stunt than a sporting achievement, but
well, I mean, it was. It was a concocted fabrication of a race.
We had called Dennehy on last week, and he's really interested on it. We might play a clip later on talking about how it was possible. I'm not sure if it's going to be possible in an actual marathon for a while yet.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably fix it so that you could pay enough people to run the marathon and be pace makers. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you couldn't.
I've got the Irish Indo. Schmidt needed some black magic. Picking Larmour over Kearney would be a brave statement of intent, says Tony Ward. Japan have shown that taking risks is the best way to cause an upset. That's Eamon Sweeney's column. There's also Mick McCarthy must avoid Geneva Convention with team in need of spark. And then you mentioned a little earlier, but there's exclusive extracts from Martin O'Connell's book.
Yeah, what are you were just reading this going, yeah, go on Martin, stick it to them.
On page 50. I have to be honest, I haven't read a good GA book in about a year since last Christmas. And I was on the train back yesterday from Clare and I was reading the story of Charlie Gallagher, the GA's lost icon.
Oh, yeah?
Been described as the Georgie Best of Gaelic football.
You were at the 6 Mile Bridge Cratloe final, were you?
No, didn't go near the hurling. We were hiking up mountains, didn't go near the hurling. But up in Moylussa, it's the highest point in Clare.
Very nice.
Gorgeous. Beneath Killaloo, Keith Wood's residence.
Very good.
So you can see all around Lough Derg. But reading the Charlie Gallagher book, and it's fascinating stuff. I have to be honest, I hadn't heard of Charlie Gallagher before.
No, isn't that the point of the book, though?
Absolutely. And it's unbelievable. His story is absolutely amazing. So that's coming up a little later in the week. But the Martin O'Connell book here should be good, because I had a couple of the Mead lads text me this morning saying they heard Brawl yesterday. Couldn't get over how emotional the Mayo boys still were.
You Mead lads are such...
They just couldn't get over it.
But of course they're going to be emotional. It's a county that's never won in All Ireland, and that was their chance.
I know.
They got robbed.
I know. And you put an extract of Martin's book into our WhatsApp group this morning. Was it the Brian Dooher clip you were...
No, it wasn't. It was a different one.
Kieran McBride. So it's O'Connell here talking about the 1996 semi-final.
Completely accidentally, he managed to draw blood from two separate Tyrone lads.
But look, that can happen. It's
accidentally, of course it can. It is.
It depends on what way you're going into the challenge. Some people are awkward and made of elbows and spanners. So, of course, for me, that game is remembered for a couple of clashes with Tyrone players. At least it certainly isn't Tyrone, where they called me every name under the sun. We were really fired up because of a challenge game between us and Navan a few months earlier, which stayed in my mind. Nothing like a bit of a grudge, is there? Name calling, different things like that. Now, he goes on and says a bit more. Says the Tyrone boys are apparently recording a song for the All-Ireland final that week. But the first incident was between myself and Kieran McBride. He went down on a ball under the Cusack stand and I kind of fell over him and my knee clipped him on the head.
Kinda.
He went off the field with blood running out of him. And when he came back on, you'd think he'd come back from a battlefield. He had a big bandage wrapped around his head for what was only a little nick. Then he goes on to about 5 or 10 minutes later, a ball comes down the line in front of the Cusack stand, and myself and Brian Dooher went for it. Dooher was quite young then in 96, very young. Looking back on it, it was a ball I should have nearly let Dooher get. Instead, I went over the top of him and he spun me. He was a yard or so in front, and I knocked the ball out of his hand. And as I did, he fell over in front of me. The ball was hopping, and as I was going over to try and win it back, I caught him on the head with my boot.
This is the 96 semi-final.
Yeah.
So this is, bear in mind, 2 weeks before the brawl, or 3 weeks. No, it's actually about a good month before the brawl, because the brawl is the replay.
Yeah.
But like, that's the same team.
The exact same team.
They were a team of fighters.
Dooher went off with blood everywhere. And like McBride, Dooher came back with a big bandage. Only for the bandages, people would never have noticed anything at all. I'm actually looking forward to Martin O'Connell's book.
Would you not now, 23 years later, put your hand up and go, yeah, look, I was a bit mean sometimes. I was a brilliant footballer, but it was my edge that took me to a place that made me be the best footballer of my generation.
Oh, here. That evening, the Sunday Game were inundated with calls and letters started flooding into the papers. There was a big discussion on it on Liveline on the Monday. I got a call from the producer on the show. Would I go on and talk about it?
Ah, yeah, no problems.
But I was out working in the van. I was too busy.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. So anyways, that'll be good. That's coming out soon. I think Liam Hayes and David Cheater are involved in that one.
The mobiles would just have been coming in at that stage, so maybe he didn't have one.
Yeah, maybe.
Would have had to pull in and call into a house. But apparently, I'm just reading Sean Moran's report from the 10 days afterwards. In the 10 days since the match, most attention is focused on Martin O'Connell's foul on Brian Dooher, although video evidence suggests John McDermott's late tackle on Peter Canavan was more dangerous as well as more deliberate.
Wow.
On the player at his most vulnerable in the air when the ball was already on its way over the bar.
Wow, late hit.
Yeah.
Sure, look, it happens.
I mean, it does, especially to teams playing that Meath team.
Yeah.
I thought, sure, look, Tyrone credit that game with learning how to win dirty in the noughties, and it creates the greatest team of all time. So you got to be careful what you wish for, Meath. So Black Magic has Schmidt another trick up his sleeve for Barrett's New Zealand. I mean, we've got to assume no is the answer. There's no tricks up anybody's sleeves at this stage anymore. Right, and that's the full cover of the Examiner. Yeah. And I haven't got around to reading David Barnes' piece about Scotland's sense of injustice surely has merit, but Scotland can't really be complaining about anything anymore, can they?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, it's done and dusted now. There was nothing. They played the game. They got their chance.
There was a few sneery tweets going around saying they'd have taken a draw at half time.
I mean, they would have definitely.
They would have, yeah.
I was thinking to myself, well. There's also a 16-page club supplement. There's great stuff coming from Clare. High and mighty. Peace breaks out as 6 Mile Bridge claim Clare crown. Pages 8 and 9.
There were some unbelievable stories over the weekend in the GA.
So this one is pretty incredible. So 6 Mile Bridge beat Cratloe 21 points to 15, and the lead from John Fogarty. For 12 years they didn't speak to one another, but for the sake of their club, Tim Crowe and Davy Fitzgerald yesterday combined forces to guide 6 Mile Bridge to their 4th Clare Senior Hurling Championship title in 7 years. I don't know what happened. A magnanimous Crowe heaped praise on his coach, whom he'd fallen out with when Crowe was a selector with Tony Considine in 2007. I think it's down to Davy. Tactically, he devised a plan that would beat Cratloe. We were here 2 weeks ago in the semi-final. After 20 minutes, he said, I've made up my mind. So he put together this plan. We met last Saturday night, we went through it, and I left that changing room very content. You saw today the fruition of his superb coaching and tactical nuances in hurling.
Yeah, apparently there's a bang of Wexford about how 6 Mile Bridge set up, but crazy stuff.
Why did they fall out? And 12 years is a long time to bear a grudge.
There's always fallouts in Clare hurling.
But it's amazing. 12 years.
How many fallouts are there? There's so many of them.
And then are they just back together now and that's it, like forever?
Apparently they were asked at the start of the season, individually they were both asked by the chairman, Tim, would you work with Davy? Within 3 seconds he said yes. Davy, would you work with Tim? And within 3 seconds he said yes. Now there's always reasons for people coming together and working together for the good of the club. There's plenty of reasons.
They could me and Tim had our differences in the past, but they couldn't get anyone to take the job at the start of the year. It's perfect. It's like, look, nobody take this job. We're going to get these two lads back together again, and we'll see. Because I mean, they must really, really like each other. For the fallout to be so severe, they must have really liked each other.
It's some going. Like there's crazy stuff. I don't know if you read the piece in the build-up to it, but the Cratloe fullback, Mike Hawes, is actually living in Tim Crowe's house.
Right.
Yeah. So he's married to one of Tim Crowe's daughters. And they're saving up for a house at the moment.
Right.
So Cratloe fullback is living in the 6 Mile Bridge manager's house. So they all know each other well down there.
Right, very good. And then there's also a column from Anthony Daly saying the process to appoint the Clare manager has been a sham and an embarrassment. He was leading the Clare Castle team out at half-time. Yesterday's Clare County final to collect the 25-year anniversary plaques. Somebody handed me the 94 final programme. They'd be the young St Joseph Stuart Bearfield team that afternoon, and Ger Hoey's name jumped out. Obviously, Ger Hoey is the one of the central characters in
Bearfield's All-Ireland winning teams.
Yeah, but also in the book, The Club, by Christy O'Connor, which is totally worth reading out. He obviously passed away at the age of 40, 10 years ago. So Anthony Daly able to put the context of personal trauma against what's happening, and at the same time still feels it's a sham and an embarrassment. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Daly also said he wasn't going to be involved in any background teams this time around, and that he won't be getting involved in Clare hurling until a couple of people step away from the county board.
Right.
He gets into it in the column. But there's other great stories from the weekend's GA. Porrick Pierce is in Roscommon.
Yeah.
Forever the bridesmaids. The Mayo, you could say, of club football. They're a massive parish, loads to draw from. Had never won a Roscommon senior title. I've lost nearly 5 finals since 2005. They won at the weekend, and I went to college with Conor Daly. I lived with Eamon Dunn, who was on the panel. He's been injured all year. I know a good few of those lads. They've been knocking on the door for a long time.
Eamon Dunn there. I don't see anybody with the top off.
Eamon's there. There's no top off. He's got a jumper on. He's got a jumper on there.
That's not right. That can't be right.
He's fine in there. But yeah, they had Pat Flanagan over them this year, but there's some Shawnee Fahy's there who's playing back in 2005 and still going now. He lost 5 finals up to this year. But huge for them to win. They bet Roscommon Gales in the final. And there was loads of other games. Gary Castle, Desi Dolan won his 8th Westmeath title with Gary Castle.
Right.
They bet John Hesson's Lomans. They came back late on to score a late goal. Castle Rahan won in Cavan. They bet Rammer United. Great name for a club team, isn't it? Rammer United in Virginia. There was loads. And there's obviously also that terrible story in Enniskerry.
It's on the front of the Star here, My Lorry Plunge Miracle. So they've actually got a picture of one of the players in the hospital with the cup afterwards. So I think by now most people will have seen the footage of the lorry and the players falling off the back of it. But so Laura Colgan has been to see Gavin Barton, who's the captain of the team, in hospital that suffered a fall. So a barrier broke in the back of the truck carrying the team. 9 people were injured. And we're still just waiting to get exact confirmation of how badly some of them are injured, but it seems like most people involved have managed to avoid life-changing injuries anyway. So, because when you saw it first, it looked horrific.
Oh, it was absolutely horrible. And look, it's awful the way we've seen how rumours and things that aren't true go around in WhatsApp groups and how they spread like wildfire. But even something like this, that could have been so bad.
Yeah.
It was just sickening to watch it. And like a junior club in Wicklow who were celebrating the title, it should be everyone just on cloud 9 for a week, and they just have to deal with that. But look, thankfully everyone's okay, so I'm not sure if those boys will be back for the Leinster, but I'm sure they'll remember that junior title for a long time in Enniskerry.
The front page of the Star this morning is Sports Star on new sex attack rap. A sports star arrested over allegedly raping a woman has been accused of a separate sex assault on Friday. Gardaí confirmed they're investigating the claims of the lead on the Star this morning. Back page, You're So Bad. Schmeichel slams boys in green ahead of Crunch. So this is interesting. Peter Schmeichel is obviously trying to inspire Ireland by saying that they're absolutely rubbish. He had a word with the Swiss goalkeeper and said, if you play, you'll win this game. I saw the Irish play. They're so bad. Schmeichel Sr. told Switzerland keeper Jan Sommer, there's nothing. If you play like this, you win for sure. He seems to be speaking in whatever language he speaks to the Swiss goalkeeper in. And you know what? Peter Schmeichel's dead right.
He is dead right. You can put that to Kenny Cunningham in about 2 minutes' time.
We were pretty bad.
Yeah, brutal. I've got the Times here, the Brave Blossoms. There's a lot of good stuff in there about Japan and how unbelievable they were. And there's also a mention for Kipchoge as well and the Chicago Marathon. In the Telegraph, again, leading with Japan, unbelievable. And also, Southgate warning after Madison and late night casino shock. So, James Maddison, who is still eligible to play for Ireland, I think, he hasn't played a full senior cap for England yet. He pulled out of the England squad because he was seemingly sick, yet he was spotted in a Leicester casino while he was supposed to be sick. So, people are wondering whether he
wants to play for Ireland so much that he's refusing.
And I also got the Guardian here, who again, Japan and the Chicago Marathon, as Radcliffe's 16-year world record is blown away in the Windy City.
The back page of the Daily Mail is battle ready. All Blacks won't relish facing us, insists Farrell. So he's getting out the look, at least we played a game this weekend narrative, which, there's no harm in doing that. Hamilton has the home after errors cost him victory in Japanese Grand Prix. Danish legend Schmeichel slams mixed men. We've just done that one. The Mirror, top Irish sports star accused of sex assault in big headline. Gardaí launch probe after woman makes complaint after incident in bar. And the back page is Swiss roll. Mick ready to hand Connolly first start in Geneva with Euros on the line. Black to front is the headline on the fixture that Ireland will now obviously play against New Zealand at 11:15 next Saturday Irish time. And that will be in Tokyo, assuming that everything goes ahead in Tokyo, which probably will at this stage. And then Sports Icon Probe is the front page of The Sun. Stars, car and clothes tested on new rape claim. Girl in 20s alleges 9 p.m. sex attack. That was on a Friday night. The Sun Sport, the back page headline, Andy recipe to beat Kiwis. Ireland must score early and often if they're to beat the All Blacks. That's Neil O'Riordan's piece. And no holding the kid back. Duffy praises mature Aaron. Shane Duffy insists kid Aaron Connolly can do a man's job against Switzerland and fire Ireland to Euro 2020.
I left at half time, had it on the player in my back pocket, kind of stopped to watch the two Connolly chances at the end. He's electric. He has to start, doesn't he?
Oh, it's insanity not starting him.
Not bringing him on with fucking half an hour to go. Excuse me for my language. Apologies, sorry, man.
Live on air. That's true, Tommy. Anything else for us there?
No.
All right, come on. Tommy's the producer has just pulled him off. That's himself. It's 10 minutes past 8 this morning. It's Monday at OTB AM. We're talking football next with Kenny Cunningham as Ireland gets set to face Switzerland in Geneva tomorrow night. First, here is the man of the moment, Aaron Connolly, talking to Richie McCormack in Tbilisi on Saturday afternoon after he came off the bench in the last 15 minutes to make his international debut.
Yeah, obviously, as a striker, I think I've got to score that second one. It's a bit disappointing, obviously, in a game like that. I think no matter what age you have to put that away. So it is disappointing, but obviously it's a proud night as well for me.
You clearly don't feel kind of out of your depth at senior level. It's something that was brought up a few times during the week, was that you seem comfortable, you don't seem like you're overawed by the team, but in the same time you're, I guess, humbled, we can see, obviously, by the call-up.
Yeah, obviously it's when I first got the call I was quite shocked and excited, so I've had the experience with first team since I've come back this summer for Brighton, so obviously if I hadn't had that it'd be a bit more nerve-wracking coming here, but since I've had that experience it's kind of helped me settle in here more, and obviously the boys have helped me settle in, and obviously the gaffer and his coach and stuff.
You'd be hopeful, I guess, of a starting place against Switzerland on Tuesday. Is that too much to ask for?
I don't know, it's up to the gaffer obviously and his staff, whatever they decide. If they do decide to start me, well then obviously I'll try and take that chance with both hands. If not, I'll try and do the same thing I've done tonight.
Mick mentioned during the week that you were kind of pretty dangerous off the left. We've seen you being dangerous off the right. Is that a role that you feel like you could slot into if you're asked as well?
Yeah, if I'm asked I'll play anywhere obviously, but as a player I'm a number 9, always have been, and but if the gaffer wants me to play left or right, I don't mind where I play as long as I get to play for my country.
Yeah, okay, so Aaron Connolly there saying that he's number 9 out and out. Kenny Cunningham is with us this morning. Kenny, good morning to you.
Morning, lads.
Does Aaron Connolly automatically get into the starting lineup after being our best player in the tiny cameo that he had at the weekend, or what's your take on this now?
No, I think that's stretching it a little bit, Jared, to be honest with you. I mean, he impressed a small amount of time that he was on the pitch, and clearly he strengthened his argument for inclusion in the starting lineup Tuesday, but I think you just got to trust Mick to make the right decision. I'm sure he'll assess Aaron over the next couple of days on a lot of different levels, I think, Jared, just in terms of like mentally where exactly he is. I was at the game now over in Georgia, and I was interested even watching Aaron walking towards the touchline, taking those 4 steps in the senior international football, and shoulders were out. The body language was good, Jay. You know, he gave a sense of, yeah, I'm ready for this. Yeah, let me on. I can make a difference here. And that was a good thing to see a lad so young. I mean, I'm trying to think back to my first cap for Eoin. It would have been the opposite emotions I would have been feeling. Kind of a lot of dread and nervousness, that type of thing, you know. But it looked exactly the opposite where Aaron. He played that way when he came on. So, although I wouldn't say he has to start, my gut feeling tells me if he carries himself the next couple of days and trained the way he probably has done, and that kind of air of confidence about him, the way he spoke there, I caught the tail end of the interview, gut feeling tells me Mick will find a place for him in the starting lineup. What position, depending on the system Mick plays, we're not too sure, but I'd probably lean towards maybe a central striking position, just because we'd like to keep him as high up the pitch as possible. I think we saw that with his last opportunity. Glenn just popped the ball over the shoulder the last 2 centre-halves in a central position. I think when you playing a wide position, particularly against Switzerland during the week, we're going to get pinned back Wingers are going to get pinned back into almost full back positions at times, very deep. And that one player we'll have the luxury of keeping a little bit higher up the pitch will be our kind of number 9. So if Mick does elect to choose him, and gut feeling tells me he probably will, I'd like to see him in that central striker position because we can actually keep him a little bit higher up the pitch towards the halfway line.
Yeah, did Collins work as a striker at the weekend, or maybe Kenny? We've had like 48 hours roughly since full time. In your assessment, what went wrong for us that we were unable to keep the ball or create chances that were in any way meaningful until the last couple of minutes of that game at the weekend?
Yeah, no, I suppose you could argue we've had this conversation on a number of occasions over a number of years, Jerry, even back to when we played. So I had a little bit of sympathy for James up front. I thought his work rate was fantastic. Physically, he tried to put himself around him, around the pitch. He wasn't going to be bullied by any of the Georgian defenders there, certainly, but probably not quite enough. The ball maybe stuck when it came to him. And his defence, I'd say, in terms of the quality of ball into him as well, Jared, as well. And you're right, in terms of the quality of our football, maybe through the thirds and our ability maybe to deliver good quality ball into us, not only his feet but the wide players high up the pitch. No, it wasn't great. It was what it was. They were really feeding on scraps for the majority of the game. And even those couple of chances late on, Jer, I mean, Aaron's first chance really came about a heavy touch from a Georgian defender. It broke to him at the edge of the box, and obviously the Glen pass was when we were defending deep on the edge of our box, and that quick counter attack, that ball over the top, which I think will probably be our best asset against Switzerland next Tuesday. So I wouldn't get too downbeat in terms of analysing the game, why we're not passing the ball and bigger picture stuff. We haven't got ball lads who retain possession of foot, because I don't honestly think that's going to be key in this game against Switzerland Tuesday. For me, I've no problem with us not sitting a little bit deeper, but if we do get pushed back against Switzerland, which I think we will, because they're a very good side, for me it's about having the right players on the pitch who can break quickly and hurt this Swiss team, because I think if they have got weakness in their team, it's across the defensive line, because the presence of Sheahan there, good footballer but not the most mobile. If Lichtensteiner plays at right back, very experienced player but can't run. So for me, get as much kind of energy, legs, kind of dynamism in the team as possible in those kind of midfield and wide areas, forward areas of the pitch, and I think we can really hurt Switzerland, particularly on counter-attacks.
Yeah, and look, I totally understand how that's exactly how we would play this game against Switzerland, but it is coming off the back of one of the most abject performances that we've seen from Ireland in a long time. That performance was of a par with anything that the bad end campaign of Trapattoni, the worst days of Martin O'Neill, and it was Georgia away when we had the opportunity to be the aggressor and to go and try and win the group. Victory in that game would have set us up very nicely for the last two games here, but instead we've handed the impetus back to our opponents, and I'm just wondering what it is that we couldn't have approached that game slightly differently.
I think I wouldn't agree with you totally there in terms of that's as bad as we've seen. Not in all aspects of the game. I think probably from a creative point of view, Jerry, in terms of quality of football, maybe creating good goal scoring opportunities from our general play. Yeah, there wasn't a huge amount there. I'd agree with you there. But I think in terms of maybe a little bit of the organisation team, defensive organisation team for me is better. When I look at the team today, I see a few little patterns there in terms of when we're going, where we're going hunting the ball, when we're going, which is good to see. And I think defensively we were kind of sound the other night, particularly two centre-halves I thought were absolutely great in terms of anything that came into the box. So yeah, I take your point on bigger picture. I don't think psychologically the lads will be on a huge downer. We're doing all the permutations after the game. It looks as if one win, basically that's what we were saying, one win from the next two games if Denmark and Switzerland win their other games. And for me, this is the one, this Swiss game. I wouldn't want to be going into that Denmark game. I know it's a home game, but we all know what that's like, Jed. Pressure on the lads' shoulders, the tension around the Aviva and the must-win game, last game of the group. So for me, it's all about this game Tuesday. Actually, I think this is our best opportunity. And like I said, I look at our team, the bench, the players, particularly in attacking areas of the pitch there, and I think we've got really good options in there. Like the Callum McDowell that people probably haven't been talking about for a starting position. the ability he has to take the ball up the pitch in possession and out possession in the football. Aaron, of course, will be strong favourite to start the game. James, there's one or two others there. Maybe even a slight change of formation, maybe a 4-2-3-1 I've been looking at for a couple of games. Just sacrifice one of those central midfield players and get a second striker playing down the middle. Aaron Connolly wants to play as a 9, play him up there. Maybe play Callum Robinson just off in his preferred number 10 position and a couple of wingers either side. People might say, oh, it's a little bit too bold. Oh, that's crazy stuff. Not really for me. Like, there's a calculated risk to it, but for me, maybe even a small little tweak in terms of formation might even help us. But I'm still confident going into the game Tuesday. I take your point in terms of the quality of our football, certainly in possession against Georgia, but I still feel as if the type of game we're going to face against Switzerland, if we get our setup right, the personnel, I still feel as if we can hurt Switzerland and get the win that we need in Switzerland as opposed to at home in our last game against Denmark.
Kenny, I know you're out of time. One last bit, like apparently McLean gave the ball away 25 times. Apparently Harahan gave it away 20 times. Do they keep their place in the team when they're giving the ball away with such proficiency?
Yeah, but I think, Joe, you can't just isolate one game, can you? Say he's got to be out of the team off the back of his 90 minutes against Georgia. Make a look at their contribution during the whole qualifying campaign. So he's not going to panic off the back of maybe one below par performance. And you're right, in terms of quality of our pass at times, maybe Connor, even Jeff, I'm a huge fan of Jeff Hendrick, but he couldn't impose himself on the game. James wasn't quite there generally in terms of having an impact on the game. Can't drop them all. You've got to trust the players. Like, yeah, it was a below par performance. You've got to trust them to produce the type of performance we know they can. But you are right, you got the likes of Alan Brown. Like I said, that midfield three again, which has kind of served us quite well, but again, could you sacrifice one of them? Maybe Connor coming out of the team and bringing an extra forward, an extra striker into the team. Mick might look at that. We have played kind of 4-4-2, 4-4-1, whatever you want to call it, albeit against Gibraltar. But there's no reason why it can't work even against higher class opposition as long as you're organising your setups to do it. So Mick's got some big decisions to make over the next couple of days. I'm really interested in seeing him flying out to Switzerland now tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to the game. It's a big challenge for the players, but I think there should be optimism there. I understand where you're coming from in terms of it, in certain qualities of the performance against Georgia, but I think there's more to come from us now. We're better than that, and the attacking threat we have in the team, for me, gives me real hope going into the game against Switzerland Tuesday.
Well, I hope he picks them. Kenny, good stuff. We'll leave it there. Thanks a million.
Cheers, Jared. Thank you.
Kenny Cunningham giving us some thoughts and maybe a counterpoint to some of the negativity that has been around the team over the last while. 21 minutes past 8 this morning here on OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. We're going to cross over to Richie McCormack in Geneva next. First, here's Darren Randolph speaking with Richie in the aftermath of the game with Georgia on Saturday afternoon. Have a look.
Darren, a frustrating night all round for Ireland, I guess?
Well, not frustrated a little bit for not winning, but again, it's a good point away from home. Me personally, I would have taken, the point here. I've been here before, and I knew how tough it would be. It's always disappointing not to get the win, but it's a point that we take and move on to Tuesday.
Odd from your perspective, because I guess there's a lot of Georgia possession, there's a lot of Georgian kind of half chances, but yourself wasn't tested too much.
No, I think the first shot on target was Aaron's after 89 minutes. So not, I suppose, kind of both teams got into good positions, but there wasn't probably a shot on target at the end of it.
You're very much viewing this as a point gain then? You're very much viewing this as a point gained rather than two drops?
It could be a valuable point come the end of the group. Points better than nothing, so I'll take it.
How do you view the group as it stands now? Of course, we've got a couple of games to go. We've got that big one against Switzerland in Geneva on Tuesday night. You'll have to, I guess, have an eye on what happens in Copenhagen tonight.
I'll have half an eye on that. Or one eye on that.
Exactly, it's half an eye. I've heard this twice now.
Well, I said half an eye and I realised I got two, so I just said one eye instead. But no, we always knew we'd have to beat, win one of the last two games coming into it. So yeah, on to Tuesday and look out for this result.
And how do you view the Swiss challenge? They're kind of, I guess they faltered a little bit in the group. They started behind everybody else given their Nations League involvement. You kind of would hope that Denmark may do us a favour and leave us set fair to get a big result on Tuesday night.
I hope so, but I don't count on it.
We'll keep our fingers crossed, Darren. Thanks so much.
No worries, thank you.
Yeah, so let's head over to our man in Geneva. Richie, good morning to you. How you doing?
Hey, Jerry, you well?
Yeah, Geneva's, at a very nice part of the world. Very expensive.
It is, but I found a decent way to get around it, which is be a tourist. Because if you're a tourist, you get around this place for free, which is absolutely class. There's a little machine inside Geneva Airport, just in the door on the way out, that says free ticket that's available for travel for the first 80 minutes that you have it or whatever. So I just got a bus and a tram back to the hotel, so that was free. You get a free travel pass if you're staying in a hotel. So I'm getting around for nothing, which is a boon.
Very good. How was Minsk? How was Tbilisi?
A bit mad, if I'm being honest. Kind of glad to get out of it, and glad to get out of it alive. When you see the gun shops on the way in, as I mentioned, Adrian, on Friday night, the drivers, the way they get around town, which is insane. Cormac in the booth on Newstop Breakfast earlier on was saying, is it as bad as Italy? And I was like, I think it's worse, because the roads are, you might have these like 8 and 10 lane wide highways that are a bit harem-scarum in terms of how people dip in and out of them. So it's a bit mad. It's kind of nice to be somewhere a little bit more restrained and knows what it is in Geneva.
What was the general consensus from the Irish fans after the game the other night? Because for me, it was one of the worst performances that I can remember. Kenny says that he sees at least some signs that the team is hunting in packs and that there's a strategy behind the way the team are defending as a group, and that is different somewhat to the O'Neill era. Mind you, it doesn't sound that different from the Trapattoni era. No. But I thought that performance was as bad as anything that Trapp and Martin O'Neill were getting hammered for relentlessly during their periods in charge.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty negative in its outlook. James Collins, to be fair, I think it would have been hard his performance, because he was so off the pace and he was so isolated up front, and there was no support for him. The midfield offered nothing. I mean, they were asking before the game that Ireland dictate the pace of the play, that they take the sting out of the ball, and that they use that to be, how they get hold of possession and how they get hold of the Georgians. But that just didn't work. They did it for about 5 minutes at the start of the second half, and then the Georgians threw a fork in the toaster again, and Ireland looked lost in how to use the ball and how to build an attack. And as you mentioned, the amount of times that Heron and McLean gave the ball away, and they weren't alone in that failing, was stark, and that kind of thing will cost us big time tomorrow night. Yeah,
look, everybody was calling for Jack Byrne to get on, but clearly Mick doesn't view him as a realistic option at this point, which is a pity. That's his decision. They see him in training, they don't think that he's up to it yet, when actually, did we have anything to lose for the last half an hour to have him and Connolly on the pitch, just to see what the difference was? If he'd been in instead of Hendrick, if he'd been in instead of Robinson, if he'd been in anywhere in that front line to get the ball and pass the ball to an Irish player and keep it for 5-6 passes and just see what happens.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, it's Mick's not viewing this game, or he wasn't viewing Saturday certainly, and I don't think now, given the point that we've won in Georgia, he's viewing tomorrow night as an all or nothing game. Nothing can be decided from a Swiss or Danish perspective tomorrow night, but we can still qualify. We can still qualify on against the Danes at home. Like there's still 2 games left for Ireland to do this, and I think that's how Mick is viewing it. It's a somewhat sensible approach, but again, as you say, it's very much a kind of overly cautious one. We could get this done with a game to spare, which would be brilliant.
We're not going to, though. I mean, it's a horrifically negative way and conservative way of looking at things, particularly when you look at the games that everybody else has left in the group. Like, our best hope now is that Denmark have nothing to play for when they get to Dublin and are like, look, sure, we're already qualified. What difference does it make to us?
Yeah, I still think that, Mick has this kind of raggy dolls approach to players, and that he likes a story, he likes a journey, he likes a tale of endurance. The James Collins kind of fits into that narrative. But there is no harm, I don't think, in going for it tomorrow night. The Swiss are prone to losing late goals. That's something that's going to be in the back of McCarthy's mind. I mean, they shipped 3 late ones to the Danes, of course, in that qualifier earlier on in the group. They shipped a late goal to Denmark the other night. They've shipped late goals to Portugal in the Nations League. They're prone to going asleep towards the end. So Mick might want to play a little bit of rope-a-dope and hope that we're still in the game and hope that it's still scoreless come the last 10 minutes, and then show his hand and then throw on Connolly. I mean, I'd love to see Connolly starting from the start. That would be brilliant, because I think he'd test that Swiss defence. I was watching the Denmark-Switzerland game the other night, and I really think that Connolly could have the better of them. I think within his 10-minute cameo, he showed enough that he can actually put it to a top-quality defence. And let's be honest, like, McCarthy beforehand was talking about how, he wants players playing regular Premier League football and scoring goals at Premier League level. Like,
You have one.
We have one. And is a James Collins or a Scott Hogan in playing for Stoke or Luton any better than Aaron Connolly playing under 23s? The answer is no.
Clearly not.
It's simple. It's clearly not. Yeah, and that's why, from my perspective, I'd have absolutely no qualms in starting them. But I'd probably go along with Kenny to a degree as well. I wouldn't mind seeing Connolly start and have someone like Callum Robinson in support. I think that would work quite well.
The whole point, though, is if he starts him now, it makes the decision not to start him against Georgia look dumb. And I think it was a dumb decision. But
it makes the decision not to pick him in the squad look dumb.
Well, it absolutely adds, it layers on that levels. But if you think that he's improved from the 10-minute cameo on the Saturday to start on the Tuesday, when the game on Saturday was the winnable game, that was the one that if we'd won that game, we'd now effectively be saying, we're going to stick our entire team behind the ball and you're going to have to try and beat us because we're going to be absolutely thrilled with the scratchy 0-0, and actually it's going to be even better for us because we've got this kid, he's really good. You're going to have to keep three defenders back at him because he's strong enough to be able to do it. I just think that it doesn't make any sense to start him in the game now when it made loads of sense to start him and give him that 90 minutes, give him the full game, take him off for 80 minutes, whatever, but get him the start, get that out of his system. We're going to have to wait and see exactly whether or not he picks him, but certainly the noises coming from the paper seems to suggest that someone has been briefed along the way that he's going to start.
I think he will start. I think what the 10 minutes showed, apart from the fact that he's a better player than James Collins, is that he won't be overawed by occasion. There's not a sense that you stick him out there. And I spoke to him after the game and he was still clutching his jersey, and this means a hell of a lot to him, and playing international football is a big, big, big deal to a 19-year-old player. But he's good enough. I think he's mature enough as a player, and I think he's of better quality than anything we have in our striking options at the moment. So it behooves us to start him.
We've played 6 games in the qualifying group so far, so there's obviously 2 left.
6 goals, Ger.
I was about to say, we've scored 6 goals, and we've played Gibraltar twice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the statistic that jumps out looking at that group. I mean, everybody else has made hay while the sun shone in Gibraltar, and we didn't, both home and away. We made heavy weather of a lot of games that really should be easy. And now that we have, McCarthy's had a pair of keys to a Rolls Royce landing in his lap. It's whether he chooses to turn the ignition now is another story. And I think he should. And if you're saying that, some people have been briefed that he will start, I think it's good news. I think the Swiss will be on the back foot by that a little bit, because to them he'd be something of an unknown quantity, I guess, although maybe League One and Championship strikers might be as well. But I think he'd be something of an unknown quality. He'd be something that they haven't faced from us before. They are on the back foot given the result, the nature of the result the other night. They're being told, they've had people in their ear. Jan Sommer, the keeper, has been told by Peter Schmeichel that Ireland aren't very good, some of the worst footballers he's seen, etc., etc., etc. And there is an element of truth to that based on the Georgia performance. But there is a chance that we can actually put a decent footing forward tomorrow night and go after this side, because we're in Geneva. It's not St. Jakob Park in Basel, which is a place we've been numerous times before, and where the crowd are right on top of the pitch and can be fairly boisterous. This is a town that is used to drawing in. The last few games for Servette have been like 7,000, 4,000. This is a 30,000 seater stadium. They already sold 20,000 tickets. There is a sense that if things aren't going well at the start, it's not necessarily that they might get angry with the home side. They might just kind of lose interest. Yeah. Geneva's too rich a city to care about football too much. Dunphy's in the papers today, and he says actually he's got a lot of very good points about how crap our midfield was and how we gave the ball away and all the things you would expect. And anyway, but he's also making the case that we should ape Sheffield United and have 3 at the back, and that actually that might be a way of getting more of our better players further up, that actually you'd be relying on your 2 wing backs, who are good footballers in our case, to actually be in possession of the ball, and actually then John Egan would be the player bringing the ball out from centre back and stepping into midfield. And look, I mean, crazier ideas have happened. It's not the worst idea in the world. They, to a degree, were doing that on Saturday. I mean, Glenn Whelan was playing the ball. Like they were splitting the centre backs, and Glenn Whelan was dropping out, and Glenn Whelan was the man receiving the ball from Darren Randolph more often than not. Yeah. The only difference is that Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty, as they weren't making the same kind of runs that you'd expect a 3-4-3 formation to actually do. Coleman did once or twice. I think Doherty only had one in the first half and looked pretty. I don't want to say he looked out of his depth, but he didn't look like he was the player he is at Wolves, playing on the left-hand side of the defence. Ennis Stevens coming in might change that, and Ennis Stevens, as Dunphy alludes to, will be used to playing that system. I don't know whether McCarthy has enough faith in his players to do something like that away from home at this stage in the group. Yeah. I mean, look, it's probably not going to happen.
But it would take the wingers out of the team, and it would give you an opportunity to just have more ball players who might be able to keep the ball a little bit. Look, it's obviously not going to happen at this stage. It might happen for a tournament if we make it there. At this stage, it looks like a route to the playoffs is more likely than not, given the way the group has gone, right?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. But, I still have this lingering suspicion in the back of my head. They talked a lot on Saturday about how a point was a good result and that they will take a lot from this game, yada, yada, yada. I think Saturday will be a kick up the arse to this team. And I think that knowing that a win will actually get us through tomorrow night, I think they could actually well go and do it, because there's a lot about this Swiss side that is decent. There's a lot about this Swiss side that's pretty damn flaky, and Vladimir Pekovic has kind of alluded to that in his post-match comments. There's been far too many rallying cries from their point of view to suggest that they're not in a bit of a crisis themselves. I think we could definitely tomorrow night go and do a job and possibly get 3 points and qualify for the Euros with a game to spare.
All right.
I'm hopeful, Ger. I'm hopeful.
Okay, on that note, Richie, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Cheers.
Our man in Geneva is Richie McCormack, and obviously he'll be bringing you updates across the day on offtheball.com as any news breaks, and obviously on the radio show this evening. Right, a couple of comments for you. Good morning, good afternoon to all of our international viewers. We've got comments from Australia, New Zealand, Australia, Wales and the US across this morning's OTB AM. 2 Australians. You should subscribe to Off the Ball on YouTube. You can check out our OTB Sports Radio on the Go Loud app, or tune in, or wherever it is that you get your live. It's on Alexa. We're also on Google Home as well. Stephen Greer says Ireland are going to surprise the All Blacks on Saturday. There's a big game coming in knockout rugby. And then I think he's got the next one is a Springbok fan says, please knock out the All Blacks of this tournament, Ireland. We need a new winner in the Rugby World Cup. Well, so if we're going to get a new winner, it won't be Springboks, it won't be England, it won't be Australia, and it won't be the All Blacks. So it'll have to be Ireland, Wales or Japan. I mean, I would be pretty happy with Ireland, Wales or Japan winning it at this stage. Niall Moonen says, since Joey took over, we've played New Zealand 4 times. We won 2 and narrowly lost 2. The team won't fear New Zealand. It's true, and we've won 2 out of the last 3. So, by that order, it should actually be a win for New Zealand. But anyway, wild pick, France to beat Wales, says Martin. That is a bit wild, given that I don't know what was going on in the French hotel while they were all locked in, watching the games and waiting for the Typhoon to hit. Were they sorting things out? Were they having conversations? Were they, drinking Courvoisier and smoking Gitanes? I don't know. More than likely, they were having some kind of row. So it'll be interesting to see what team eventually makes the field and what state they're in, what mental state they're in. But it is knockout rugby in a World Cup, and history shows that France are pretty damn good at this stage of the tournament. Dred says, when French rugby is in chaos, that's when they turn up to play. The All Blacks know that only too well. Christopher Marshall says, I can see the Irish emotionally up for one big game, especially against the All Blacks. Then they'll be crap in the semis, and it'll be South Africa against England in the final. That would be pretty grim. New Zealand, says beating the All Blacks was a long time coming for Ireland. Now they're 2 wins from 3 games, but New Zealand will be a different beast at this World Cup. No one should rely on past performances. We're going to put all this to Chris Rattue a little bit later on. If Bundy Aki isn't playing, they will struggle to prevent offloading from our midfield. I expect Crotty will start with Sonny off the bench when Ireland tire. Yeah, Sonny Bill Williams coming off the bench is a pretty scary prospect. Johnny Kennedy, good morning to you. What could Eoin possibly have in his bag to get 10 kilos overweight? Was it his fingers? That was after his fingers swelled up after a bite from an unknown, unidentified insect at the weekend. Pictures of which are all over his Twitter account if you want to go and check it out. Mel says, I said it in your programme 2 weeks ago. The Irish rugby and soccer teams are overcoached and are prohibited from thinking outside the box, the very thing that make the Dublin GAA 5-in-a-row winners stand out from the rest. They read the game as it unfolds, and Jim Gavin trusts them to change the script to suit, which is the complete opposite to what Mick and Joe encourage in their respective sides. I mean, it's a very well-coached Dublin side, though. They didn't get to a point where they were able to control games and switch in and out of different modes of playing without being incredibly well coached. So I guess there's a bit of a difference there. Right, let's move on. With New Zealand standing in the way of Ireland's spot in a World Cup semi-final, Brian O'Driscoll considered what Joe Schmidt's team will be dealing with. Have a look.
For the minds, of course. Coming into this World Cup, they wanted to do what no other Irish team has done. But you got to put that aside now and not worry about it. If you let that take grip of you, I think you'll forget about the job in hand. This is just one 80-minute performance against the All Blacks. There's nothing after this if they don't win. So it's very easy to have tunnel vision on a game, particularly when you're playing the opposition of the All Blacks quality. So listen, we've talked about Joe Schmidt's legacy, you know, about getting into will it be dependent on getting into a semi-final? Well, it's just gotten tougher having to go via the All Blacks. But imagine if they did manage to do it. Imagine what that legacy how it would grow by doing it the hard way. And I've said it the whole time that it will happen in Ireland at some stage. We'll get to a semi-final, and we've wanted sooner rather than later. But you definitely feel that if Ireland are capable, if Ireland can produce a huge performance, that no team would then want to get them. And you know, it is this big green machine that Barnes talked about. It hasn't been firing like we've seen over the last couple of years. But if they can get back to that level of accuracy that we've seen, getting them to claim the number one spot in the world, well, they make themselves a difficult team to beat. And that's all you can do against the best players in the world. Just make it hard and then take your opportunity. If we are to win, it'll be a one-score game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to talk about how we might go about that a little bit later on. But first, let's get back to Japan and join Alan Quinlan. Alan, good morning to you. How you doing?
Morning, Ger. How are you?
Yeah, good. What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Nagasaki at the moment.
And how come you're there?
I'm here for just a day or two off, just to come down and see Nagasaki. Obviously, there was this is one of the. I'm just going to check the connection. Is it?
Yeah, no, it's all good.
The connection. We're all right. Just a couple of days off. I've about 12 games done so far, and just came down here for 2 days, and I'm back up to Tokyo on Wednesday.
So you missed Tokyo for the Typhoon?
Yeah, we were in Fukuoka for where the Ireland game was on against Samoa, and it's well documented now. At the start of last week, it was supposed to hit Fukuoka, where the Ireland game was, and then it just changed path and it hit straight into Tokyo, and it was devastating, to be honest. And a lot of the ITV crew that I've obviously been working with, a lot of them they're based in Tokyo. The production people and all that, and so I was chatting to lots of them on Saturday, and it was incredible what was happening outside their hotel window. You know, they weren't affected directly. I think it was more in the kind of outskirts of Tokyo and stuff like that. But if they walked out of their hotel, you'd be blown away. David Flatman actually did a piece there for ITV, and he was out in the rain and the wind, and he was nearly getting blown away. And he's a good, sturdy former prop. So the wind was nearly taking him away, but it was very sad. It was devastating what happened, and unfortunately there was loss of life, which is something that, you know, I suppose World Rugby got criticised last week for calling off the games, but from talking to the people that were based in Tokyo, there's absolutely no way you could have moved people around there and had those games on Saturday. I suppose the talking point, and it'll probably go on after the World Cup, is should they be moved to Friday or Monday, you know, and got alternative days and alternative venues, which logistically is a big thing to do. But I suppose the Japan-Scotland game was the game. If that didn't go ahead, I think it would have been, the World Cup would have lost a lot of credibility. The other games weren't that directly affected. I spoke to French people last week and some of their squad and their management, and when I was down in Oita, and I did the France-Tonga game, and I think France, what the indications I was getting were France were going to put out a second team anyway against England and finish second in the group and be fresh for a quarter-final against Wales. So anyway, it's unfortunate events over the weekend, but at least Ireland performed and got a good result anyway.
Yeah, okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Japan game, because their performance in that first half against the Scots was absolutely sensational. Everything went to hand. Every tackle was broken. Every player in the tackle was trying to make an offload, and generally it was finding a support runner who was taking a great angle away from the cover defence. They played absolutely sensational rugby in that first half.
Yeah, they did. It was incredible to watch, and I don't know if you saw it, but they interviewed Tony Brown, the assistant coach, before the game, and the question was asked of him was, are they feeling the pressure of the nation and maybe the pressure and expectation that came after the Ireland victory? And he said no, that there's only one way they can play and one way that they're programmed to play, and that's just move the ball, and that's what they've been working on for the last kind of 12, 18 months, is trying to peak at the right time and play that brand of rugby and hold on to the ball as much as they can and limit their mistakes. And it's very hard to get the ball back off them, Ger. And Ireland obviously shipped a fair bit of criticism for the loss to Japan, but it probably puts it in context. None of us really realised how good they could be. I know I said it. I was worried about Japan before the competition. We were all talking about Scotland and how pivotal that first game would be, but none of us realised how good Japan could be, and they backed it up last night with a sensational. That first 50 minutes, as you said, was sensational. It was incredible to watch, and they were amazing. Just the pace, the offloads, the quality of their passing. It was brilliant to watch.
You'd give them a chance against the Springboks, right?
The concern I would have for them is, and I think we did it much better than Scotland did, is we held on to the ball quite well. So we lost by 7 points. And you can argue we were a little bit unlucky on occasions. We looked like cutting them open. We went 12-3 up. We had another couple of line breaks that we didn't convert. So it could have been a lot different. But what Ireland did well against them, if they did anything well, was we retained a fair bit of possession. I know we turned it over on occasions by losing the ball in contact. But Scotland just could not get the ball back off them. After Finn Russell's try, I think, which was a great start for Scotland, and they got a few good turnovers at the breakdown, particularly Jamie Ritchie. He was brilliant. Bradbury was very good for him early on, but Scotland just couldn't get the ball back off him. And I just have a feeling that it's going to be more difficult for them to keep the ball for so long against South Africa. And on occasions in that second half, I know it's probably from the 50th minute onwards, Scotland actually, when they retained the ball and were really physical when they had the ball, I think they made them look a little bit porous around the physical collisions around the side of the rucks and stuff like that. That's the only concern. But if they can play anywhere near like that, they can be very, very dangerous, and they're a team that are going to score tries.
Can I ask you then about Ireland and what you think is going to happen with us? We've reached a stage where it looks like we're going to be without Bundyaki, and I don't think anybody could complain too much. We all kind of knew what the rules were. Well, it looks like we've lost connection there to Alan. Still there, Quinny? Now we're back. Yeah. Sorry, you're back.
Yeah.
What do you expect us to be able to do against the All Blacks that might be a little bit different from what we've done in the tournament so far? Or is there anything? Do you just expect us to be a better version of ourselves?
Well, a better version of ourselves is a good way of summing it up, Ger. I think if they go back to Chicago 2 years ago and the way Ireland retained the ball and actually put wit in the game and attacked New Zealand, they're not a team. You just cannot sit back and wait for New Zealand and contain them. You've got to play against them. You've got to get the basics right, obviously. And physically, they've always tried to dominate teams. So if Ireland are physically at peak level and win collisions and are aggressive, they've got to play a little bit then and put a bit of width in the game and get the ball to Stockdale, get it to Earls, try and get it to, it looks, I'm sure Ringos will probably play now at 13 and just get a little bit of width in the game, and hopefully, after, they're a team that you won't score off first, second, third, fourth phase. You probably have to build multiple phases. So a better version of Ireland, I think they're very direct. They've got to stick to the basics and do them very well, and when they carry the ball, be physical. But I think you'll need more variety in attack. There's no doubt about it. I think Dricker was on there talking about scoring tries. You have to score tries to beat New Zealand, and so they've got to bring their best performance. And I think if we're reviewing it on Sunday and Monday, you'll need 8, 9 out of 10 out of right across the board from the 23 players that are going to be involved.
Yeah, we've beaten them twice out of the last 3 occasions. A lot of New Zealanders in particular would point to that game in Chicago as being at a weird time for that All Blacks team, that they were basically on party mode for the whole week, and we caught them a bit cold. That wasn't the case the last time that we beat them in Dublin. There was definitely a bit more of intent around that one. Our team has changed quite a lot since the game in Chicago, so you can't really read too much into the recent history between the two sides. Is basically what I'm getting at here, that New Zealand should be favourites on the basis of how well they've played in this tournament so far, in particular in that game against the Springboks.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to that first game against South Africa, they weren't They didn't have the lion's share of possession. I think there was a period of 20 minutes in that first half where South Africa made them look quite ordinary and just didn't convert the pressure and the dominance they had. They got 2 tries, which we know they can do. They can score from anywhere, probably against the run of play, and just managed to get themselves ahead and manage the game really well. And they're uber confident when they get into that position. But they've shown vulnerability this year, Jar, against Australia in Perth and at home in Wellington against South Africa. So I don't think we should fear them as much as maybe we have done before, which can be dangerous because you need a fear factor against them. But I think there's enough of Irish guys involved in this team that know, in very simple terms, where you've got to be to have a chance against New Zealand, and you cannot let them bully you. And if you get opportunities, i.e. a line break, somebody's got to be on a shoulder and you've got to convert it, because you won't get many opportunities against them. They're so good, so competitive. And so, yeah, the win at the start against South Africa probably wasn't... It was impressive as regards getting the job done, but it wasn't a hugely impressive performance overall. But look, they're the All Blacks, and I think they have that aura about them. And I think hopefully a lot of the Irish guys won't read into that and buy into that. They'll know that they've got to bring their A game, really. So it's different. If we were playing South Africa, it'd be all about Rassie Erasmus, Felix Jones, Jack Nienaber all week. Now we're the underdogs, and there's a 12-point spread, and maybe it's a better position to be in.
Certainly it's a position that we're used to, and it is a position in which we have thrived in the past. And look, this team, it has always been building towards a game where they were going to define their legacy by winning or losing a single game, which is kind of unfair in many respects because of the success that they've delivered over such a sustained period of time, and the quality of rugby that they've played and the individual accolades that they've had. But that's the ball game when you get involved in it, and particularly in rugby, it goes World Cup to World Cup. And this next week is the most important week of Johnny Sexton's rugby life, of Conor Murray's rugby life, of Rory Best's rugby life, of Tyke Furlong's rugby life, and of Joe Schmidt's rugby life.
Yeah, it is. And look, at the end of the day, the form book and probably would say that they'll win. New Zealand should win, but that's always been the case. Anytime I was ever involved against them, I think we changed that picture in Chicago and last year in November 2018, and that will give confidence and self-belief, I think. And like I said, there is a little bit of vulnerability there, but they're an incredible side, and I think if they play well, they're very, very difficult to beat. Ireland have to stop them playing well, force them into mistakes, win some turnovers, win some big moments. And I think if they do that in the first half and stay, if New Zealand start really well and get a try or two or 8 or 10 points up, they'll grow in confidence and self-belief, and they're very hard to reel in. If Ireland start the game well, will it put a little seed of doubt in their minds? I think Steve Hansen and the All Blacks will respect Ireland. They probably wouldn't have wanted this fixture. They would have preferred Japan or Scotland before the tournaments. But I think it's a great opportunity. It's massive for, like you say, for Sexton, Murray, Rory Best, Joe Schmidt, and all the players, because we've never gone beyond the quarter-final, and this is a chance to do it. So the motivation will be through the roof. And sometimes when you go out in a field like that, I just hope that they come off the field and they go, right, we've thrown everything at it, and that we don't have a performance that's regretful and saying, well, we should have believed more, we didn't execute as well as we could, or we made too many mistakes. It's difficult, but they've got to make sure they stay in the game. And the longer they're in the game, and if they nudge themselves ahead, well, then hopefully they can grow in confidence and sow that seed of doubt. But there'll be a lot of talk all week about it, and hopefully Ireland have something up their sleeve, and this is the time to really pull it out if they have. Three
quick questions for you. Should Jordan Larmour start?
Yes.
Ahead of Carney, even if Carney's fit?
I think so.
Just on the basis of the form against Samoa was so good?
Yeah, look, I just think he gives you such an attacking threat, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't have a problem with Rob Kearney starting, because I'm a massive fan of Rob Kearney's, and I think he's a big game player. Going right back to Chicago, I wrote a piece on it afterwards. He was kind of written off before that. He's not been written off now because he hasn't done anything wrong. But I just think it's a big call to leave someone with that attacking ability out of it. I think Jordan Larmour's grown in confidence. He's stronger. He's more physical. But then again, if he's going to start, they're going to kick a lot to Jordan Larmour. They're going to test him. So I could be wrong, but I think on the basis of what we've seen, I'd probably start him.
Where's Tyg Byrne featuring in at the minute?
I think he's close to starting as well. I think he played really well at the weekend, and he brings a lot of footballing ability, variety in his carries. He's very similar to James Ryan, the way he can pick a line. But again, Peter has so much experience, and he is a big game player like Rob Kearney. These are guys that they're steely. They're guys who speak in the dressing room. They won't take a backward step. And that's okay if the game is tight and physical. But I just think, look, I think Jordan Larmour and Tyg Byrne are going to be good. They're going to be in the coach's thoughts, whether they pick the team tonight, tomorrow. I think they'll wait on Bundy Aki's decision. But I think they're both very, very close to starting.
Yeah, I see the benefit of having a really strong bench in a game like this where there is 15, 20 minutes left to go. Like if you look at the bench in Chicago, it was at that stage players with not very much experience who were coming on to try and see out the game. And I'm not even sure Joe Schmidt thought that we were going to win that game, but because we had them again in Dublin, and he might have been targeting that one. But like in a World Cup, those last 15 minutes of the game, if we have any chance of winning it, we're going to be close in the last 15 minutes. And having somebody like Peter O'Mahony to come on when Rory Best is coming off, if Sexton has to come off, having him to come on and be the captain at that point might be important.
Yeah, and I think, look, Joey Carberry coming on the other night, Porter, Kilcoyne, these guys are bringing real energy. And, Tyg Byrne could be on the bench. Rhys Ruddock could be on the bench. I think he was unlucky not to be involved against Samoa. So there's a lot of options. There is a lot more strength and depth there. And I think it's probably down to the finer, minute details of, do you go for the safer, kind of structured, experienced approach, or do you start with a little less inexperience and maybe more flair? Because Larmour brings more flair, Tyg Byrne probably brings more flair and carrying ability in the back row. But then Peter O'Mahony's ability at the breakdown and line out and just his overall leadership there. So they're all 50-50 calls, I think, but the bench is going to be vital because it's just proven to be a fact, coming off the bench and bringing impetus like that, and it's going to be very important. I think it was important that Carberry got on and had those minutes the other night. I think he looked sharp. I know Ireland were on the front foot, but that will do his confidence a world of good. And I've said this all along: Sexton, Carberry being fit and in good health, gives Ireland a way better chance.
Robbie Henshaw looked a bit rusty. Does he automatically get in the team now, given the fact that we're unlikely to have Bundy Aki, or does Chris Farrell come back in, or what happens, do you think?
I'm not sure. I think it'll benefit him having played the game, and it's tricky coming back. I think he dropped the ball at one stage trying to do a little loop pass. He's so influential, Henshaw, when he's on song, and I think that game will benefit him. He was a little rusty, there's no doubt about it. Does he move to 12 and Ringrose go to 13? Well, he can play, that's the Leinster centres, so there's a benefit to having Sexton, Henshaw, Ringrose together. But then Farrell brings a real presence about him and a size and a physicality. It depends, again, what way they want to play. I'd be very comfortable with any of them playing, but I think Henshaw will start, and I think Ringrose will start.
Okay, and you don't think Bundy Aki's going to get off?
I'm hopeful more than anything, but the mitigation is the Samoan fly to have Setatini. He dipped a little bit himself, and that's probably where they're going to go with it. And both Bundy Aki's arms wrapped around the back, so there was a genuine attempt to tackle, and it was probably the way the player fell backwards made it look a lot worse. And so Nick Berry couldn't find that mitigation in a short period of time. I thought probably it was the correct call, but
yeah.
If they can bring it to a situation where the red card was enough punishment. But sentiment kind of goes out of this a little bit, and whoever is making the decision will make it based on what they see, and they won't think, well, it's a shame that he missed a quarter-final and maybe a semi-final if they get there. But Look, they got to put their best foot forward, and he may, and it'll be a massive boost because I think Aki will start. He's a big game player, and he's someone who has played really well against them in November 18. So we'll wait and see on that. It's this evening that hearing. So in a couple of hours' time, we'll know.
All right, Alan, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Enjoy Nagasaki.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
It's Alan Quinlan giving us some thoughts this morning. 8:58. We're sticking with rugby for the next few minutes. We're going to cross over to New Zealand to chat to New Zealand Herald columnist Chris Rattue in the next few minutes. First, it's the piece you've been waiting for all morning here. It's the Irish fans in Japan reacting to the Samoa win. It's all thanks to Vodafone Rugby, team of us.
We're here in Fukuoka, where Ireland have hammered Samoa tonight. They're through to the last 8 of the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Here's what the Ireland fans had to say.
I feel happy again.
The stadium felt like Thomond Park. It was a bit of crack, and we did well, despite the Bundy Aki sending it off. Stack full of lads, like. No English.
Ireland for the World Cup. Woo!
TV.
The Pikachus are back.
I won't lie, the Pikachus are having a great time in Japan. There was a bit of a storm. I won't lie, there was a bit of a Haggibis.
There was Haggibis got in the way. Haggibis got in the way. Got in the way.
Oh, we're flying now though,
Where are you from?
I'm from Mayo. Yuppa!
Apparently, Devon Toner's been going very well in training back home. I heard we should bring him out. We'll beat New Zealand if we have Devon Toner. Apparently, he's 2 foot taller than he was when we left here. You're not getting anything out of me, you dirty Malik. All we need is a bit of Dev. All we need is Dev. All we need is Dev. All we need is Dev. Dev is all we need.
They look much better, much better. It's probably their best performance.
They're back to 2018 Ireland.
Jesus, there's a bit too much. There's a bit too much.
Hello. Great game for Jordan. Jordan did amazing. Jordan did great. I don't remember the second half, so.
Lads, a great win. The next week the game is there for us. And Susie, we lost her.
Get off me now. I'm going in. Do I think we're going to be beaten? Yeah. Lads, we haven't put in a good performance. It's like we came here expecting to win it and just go in a straight run to the final. That's not how it was going to happen. It's like the boys believe their own hype, to be honest. And we all believe their own hype. We all jumped on the bandwagon. And we love a bandwagon because we're not that good at most things. We eventually got a bit good at rugby. We were like, feck it, we might win this. We're not going to win it, lads.
Rugby.
We're getting to the line. We're messing up on the line. We're giving away penalties. And then we're not getting over the line. It's easy. You get to the line, you put the ball down, and they're just not doing it.
Glen Road.
There's nothing sexy of
an autumn day.
Hello?
If Joe Smith left last year, we'd have all been saying he was the most amazing man that there ever was in Irish rugby. Now that he's stayed the extra year, we're all kind of like, oh, look, you were fine, but we probably need someone else. But then again, who's going to bring us past the line? Who's going to bring us to the number one spot that we can stay there the whole time?
Jerry Flannery. Maybe we're not good enough.
Maybe we're just not good enough. Maybe we just aren't. No, Ron O'Gara will bring us past the line, lads. I'm telling you now.
I don't know why do the Japanese don't eat bread crusts?
The Typhoon, any advice on how to survive a typhoon?
Well, we get a lot of typhoons out in Kerry there as well. You get an all winter evening there in November, but an awful wind there, but I don't know. I'd say bring an all jacket or something like that.
I have a tip for surviving typhoons. Right? If you have a family, leave them where they are and just go to the rugby match.
Give the Palestine back to fucking I'm not a fucking Aussie, I'm a Kiwi.
Let's do this. I'm off the ball. Hey, come here. Tell me, how was your night?
Sorry,
fucking mental crack altogether. I watched you on Instagram the other day. You had fucking insect fingers. His hands.
Fingers?
Look, show me your hands.
Oh, yeah.
The other one.
No, they're gone down.
They're gone back down, yeah.
Silverware, you guys must be allergic because we've got a lot of goal.
Here's a tip. Hey, sorry, mate. Can we get a comment here, please? Yeah, love them. Look, we need to have some comment here.
Tell us your name and where are you an officer?
Stand up for the boys in blue. Bunny was hard done by, but that's for the higher levels, to be brutally honest. No, that's not my penis. Thank you very much.
How much? She's back because she has a theory on the dubs.
So with the whole Jim Gavin thing, I only think that Jim extended his contract because he's not going to stay past this year. I think the only reason he extended the contract is so people would stop asking him about it this year to coincide with the 5 in a row. You could see it on the players in the pitch. He brought on Michael Dara. MD hasn't played in years, and he was like, "Should we have to bring on the lads?"
There was a woman behind me who gave me an awful amount of stick for wearing a Leinster jersey at a game, who told me I was wearing the wrong jersey. And yeah, so I snapped very quickly back at her that I know it was the wrong jersey because there's only 3 stars on this jersey and there should be 4, and that's my story. Thank you very much.
All right, covering themselves in glory as usual. If you see Eoin Sheahan next week and you're there for the quarterfinals, please do make yourself known, and we'll share your glory with the internet, because the internet remembers everything these days, folks. And I hope you all got jobs to come home to. Right, we're going to move on. Let's go down to New Zealand and join Chris Rattue, who of course joined us on the show about 18 months ago to tell us that, you know what's the whole point of playing the World Cup? We should just hand the trophy over to the All Blacks. At the time, we thought he might be right. Just give us the World Cup now, was the headline on the New Zealand Herald. Chris, you know what? We're ready. We're just going to roll over this weekend. There's actually no point in us even showing up next Saturday in Tokyo. Your boys are going to give our boys one hell of a beating, right?
Yeah, you got a terrific memory. I think it might be a bit closer than that. Yeah, a lot's happened in the past year or so, and the All Blacks aren't really that unbeatable outfit anymore. And I think the build-up for them over the past month hasn't turned out to be all that good. By the time they take the field against Ireland, it'll be a month since they had a decent game, and I think that plays into Ireland's hands a bit.
Steve Hansen was talking during the week, or actually just in the last 24 hours, about that, and said that on Friday the GPS levels were off the charts. So obviously it was very intense, and they're able to track and manage this. But is it a genuine concern, as far as you're concerned at least, that those training matches, they're great and everything, and everybody's trying to win a place in the team, but ultimately a game is a game, and the competitive instinct kicks in, the adrenaline, the fight or flight proper experience of a match counts.
Absolutely. And they one of the key players, as everyone knows, for the All Blacks is Brodie Retallick, and he's had about 30 minutes of proper game time against a weak side in a couple of months. So I don't really see how he can be at top speed for this game. And what you'll find with all the coaches now, they're going to be talking positive, aren't they? I heard Eddie Jones talking in a similar manner about England having its last pool game cancelled, and he sounded positively in party mode about it. I just don't believe it. I think a game gives you things that you can never get out of a training run, even if the training runs these days can be very physical.
Yeah, they can be pretty physical, but they can't. As soon as it starts to get so physical, like it might actually resemble a game, they call a halt to it for fear that somebody might get injured, which, obviously they don't do in a game. You talk...
Yeah, I mean, in a game, you have to take yourself to places that you may not know you had, type of thing, and you don't entirely know what the opposition's going to do. And I think the relevance here is if Ireland can get off to a good start and put some doubts in the All Black minds, I think that lack of game time could be, that factor could compound a bit.
The one, I guess the counter argument is that in the opening game of the World Cup, the Springboks did get off to a good start and looked really quite hot for that first 15 minutes, and then there was just a 3-minute period where all of a sudden, bang bang, and the full array of talent of this All Black side was laid bare for the world to see. What's the real All Black team at the moment? Because obviously they're capable of that burst, but they're also capable of just being a bit flaky in games.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fair point, and I think going into the quarterfinals, you could say that. I think the one team that's really showed what it's truly got, put all its cards out there, played to its absolute level, is Japan. I think all the other sides who are in the quarterfinals have got this up and down thing going on, and I just went over the tape of the great Irish victory last year against the All Blacks. I went through that game this afternoon, and to be honest, I came out of it none the wiser in many ways. You know, I mean, I looked at the way the All Blacks played in there and wondered if they were really showing everything they had. It seemed like they weren't. You know, playing with the full deck in a way. Even Ireland, I looked at some of their little moves in that game, some of the clever little things that Ireland do, and I wondered what else is up Joe Schmidt's sleeve. You know, and I'm not sure that we've seen everything yet. And I don't think any of the sides, none of the big guns are really going into these quarterfinals in tip-top condition. There's a bit of doubt over all of them. They've had up and down tournaments, including the All Blacks. So, you know, that's the way this tournament's evolved.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this officially the end of the Steve Hansen era this month? Is it clear that he's definitely leaving the post and that there will be a replacement in the aftermath of the World Cup? Yes, this is the end for him, and it's been one of the great coaching eras, no doubt about it. And I think one of his great strengths is his voice still gets through to the players, and he's evolved too. And if you look at the All Black side at the moment, there are a lot of changes that have happened over the past, say, 18 months, and they can still pull these great things out of the fire, you know, when they need to. But they're not the sure bet they once were. So, you know, I think it's a great opportunity for Ireland. I really do. Oh, that's going to start to get us very worried. We're supposed to come in under the radar here. You're not even supposed to give us any credit whatsoever. Why have things changed so much from New Zealand's perspective? Surely 18 months ago they hit a peak, and what he's been doing is just building everything nicely so that they can arrive in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals capable of playing in multiple ways, and the team has had a bit of a kick up the ass over the last while in matches that he doesn't really care about, because ultimately his legacy will be what happens over the next month. Yeah. Well, I think the All Blacks are slightly different from everyone else in that every test matters. That's the first thing I'd say. They've been hit. There's certain things beyond their control that they got hit with, and that's mainly injuries. They've had injuries to really very key guys like Kieran Reid, Sam Cane, Brodie Retallick. There's a sort of strange business with Liam Squire, who I think found the mental stress of playing Test rugby too much. It's not been totally explained, but he basically stepped down. There's been other things that I think are within their control, that they've not selected stable sides. Other players such as Sonny Bill Williams have sort of had a lot of injuries. He's only played something like 43 games, I think, since the last World Cup. So, and the injury to Damien McKenzie. So they've actually been hit by a lot of things. There's been form issues, particularly Rico Ioane, and form good and bad. Some other players such as Scott Barrett and Artie Severe have really risen to the task. But it's not the settled kind of great All Black side that you would have associated with the past, when they could roll out, say, a loose forward trio
Reid, Kano, and Richie McCormack, of course, and just know exactly what they would produce in a game. They will go into this game not totally sure about what some people will produce, and that's something that Ireland should really be preying on. I think really pressuring certain areas.
One of the suggestions was that in preparation for this period of the World Cup, that the All Blacks had been working on a way of counteracting the high pressure defence that Ireland had been successful with them against. What is the result of that? How do you see that manifest itself in a match?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and it's probably one that we could have asked more down here. It tends to be in New Zealand that the All Blacks sort of put out a sermon every now and then, and a lot of the time the All Blacks put out a sermon, and we don't question it that much. But I think that the big move was moving Beauden Barrett back to fullback. That's what he can do in broken play or any slight gap or even gaps that aren't there for other people is off the charts, really. So that's one of the things they did, and I'm not sure if they'll really use this against Ireland. I presume they will, but they like to kick wide. Richie Mwanga will kick wide to his wingers. So those are probably the two most obvious things they've done. But, if a team can get its rush defence, as they call it now, if they can get it in order and you can put a bit of doubt in any team's mind, those plans you have can come unstuck.
The Barrett to 15 decision is obviously a difficult one for a coach to make because he's such a great 10, but it's effectively baking in a bit of unpredictability into your game plan. And certainly our New Zealand coach in Joe Schmidt likes everything to be as predictable as possible from his perspective, that he knows exactly what his team are going to do under any one of the myriad different potential outcomes in any second of the game. Where was Steve Hansen able to make that decision and just decide, you know what, I'm okay with the fact that Barrett's going to do what he's going to do at 15, you're all just going to have to follow him and follow his lead, and that's what the right course of action for us as a rugby nation is right now? Yeah,
I think when you're brought up playing rugby and the influences in league and rugby around you in this part of the world, and I'd include Australia in that as well, is that it is a game where you take some risks and there's a culture of attack and flair. I see the way Joe Schmidt coaches there, and it was really interesting going over the last year's game today, particularly in the first half, the patterns that they used. And I don't know if players in this country would really respond to that type of coaching so much. I think that the game is seen a little bit differently down here. And when you produce players like Beauden Barrett, then you really have to give them the chance to show what they can do. And I think that I personally think he's a once in a kind of lifetime player. He's not universally loved down here to some respects. He gets a lot of criticism from the public here, and people doubt him and say that he's. I hear people even in the media say that he's overrated. So he's not. He doesn't have the universal approval that, say, Dan Carter had here. So that sometimes I think players like him are maybe respected more in other parts of the world than they are here. We're a hypercritical rugby country. The All Blacks can win by 20 and we'll be complaining that they didn't clean out the rucks very well.
No, great. I understand that. Chris, you were pretty confident a year ago. I expect you're still pretty confident that New Zealand will win this game. Are they going to win it well, do you think?
Yeah. I would say this, that if the rest of the rugby world can't attack the All Blacks in their current state, and there's other factors that have changed too. Some of the props that they'll be taking into this game are rookies by international standards. And, looking at that, once again, looking at the game last year, Furlong and Healy were just immense. They were staggering. And I still think the big guns of world rugby, and I'm talking really Ireland, England, South Africa, but they should see the All Blacks as vulnerable in those sort of places. So I think it's an opportunity for someone else to win the World Cup here.
Right.
The All Blacks are the favourites. To me, they play the best brand of rugby in the world. I've got nothing but admiration for the way they can adapt within games. They were getting smashed by Ireland last year, and yet they only lost by a few points in the end.
Yeah.
They find ways to stay in games. They find ways to win games. But the rest of the world, the big guns and the three that I mentioned, must know that they can be taken. They can be taken here. They're not impenetrable. You can get to them, and this is the moment for one of those teams to really go out and do it and believe they can do it.
Chris, great to have you with us again. Thanks a million for being so good with your time.
Great to be on.
Enjoy the game.
All the best.
Thanks a million.
Thanks.
You too. Take care. Yeah, so you're watching OTBAM this morning, 20 minutes past 9. The Sports Breakfast Show here from Off the Ball. We've got the sports news with Phil Egan next. Tomorrow night, Tuesday the 15th of October, we're going to bring you the very latest of our Off the Ball roadshows. A very special show from the Bord Gosh Energy Theatre. Brian O'Driscoll, Michael Lynott, Keith Wood, Malcolm O'Kelly, Bobby Skinstad, Danny O'Reilly, lead singer from the Coronas, and Paul Howard, the creator of Ross O'Carroll Kelly. Right now, we want to bring you back to one of our Heineken Rugby Club roadshows where Gary Halpin talked about the All Blacks in Dolphin Rugby Club way back in December 2018 and giving them the fingers. Enjoy.
You still haven't explained why you did it, though. Why did you give?
sorry.
Was that aimed at the New Zealand
every
supporters
time
or
I
the New
see him,
Zealand players?
it's Sean Fitzpatrick. Every time I see him, I still want to give him the finger. You know what I mean? I find him. He's a great player and all that.
Tonight's surprise guest.
But I hated playing against Kiwis because they were always talking about moves on the inside. They're just talking about rugby all the time. And they talk about things like rugby and fly fishing and crap like that. They just sheep, of course. No, but they were just. I don't know. In a moment like that, I suppose it was just a bit of a rush of blood to the head, they would say. But we were. You see, the thing about it then, as Mike alluded to earlier on, in that competition, these guys were sold to us as almost unstoppable in that competition. Absolutely. And they proved to be almost unstoppable right for that last hurdle. But that was the first time I did the haka against, looking at him, the size of him, and it's a weird thing in rugby. As a young guy looking at it, I always remember it was like, they get a real psychological advantage over us, and why can't we do something like that? And River Dance was big then, right? So I was like, why don't we all start giving it a bit of that to them, I bet that'd frighten the crap out of them,
Yeah, Gary Halpin, River Dancing would definitely frighten the crap out of me. Good morning to you, Phil. How are you?
Yeah. How are you doing?
What did you make of the 0-0 draw, Phil? High watermark for Irish football.
I was here last week and I was defending everything that had happened under Mick McCarthy, but I can't defend what happened.
You're off the bandwagon.
It was awful. And I had no problem with Aaron Connolly not starting because you can't win a game in the first half. You can certainly lose a game, so Mick kept it tight. And I was waiting, I was like, right, half an hour to go, let's bring on Connolly. Even 25 minutes to go, not the 79th minute. Even if he brought him on in the 70th minute. But
60 was perfect time.
60 was perfect, but
half an hour. Let's see what the kid can do.
Yeah.
11 minutes. We had our first shot on goal because he comes on and has a shot.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we can kick a ball over the top now because we've got somebody who's fast enough to run onto it.
Yeah.
And he's not even that fast.
Yeah, he's fast enough.
Yeah, but he's not like lightning.
He's not lightning, but my worry is if he did play for the whole game, and I still have this concern for tomorrow night as well, that if he
might score early, is that your problem?
Well, I'd have no problem if we could score early, but ultimately what happens when we do score early, we just retreat.
Yeah.
And we played deep enough as it was in Tbilisi.
But, I would have taken an early goal and see what happened.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
My worry is, though, if you play him from the start and he's running around chasing shadows, which is what you're going to have to do, then you're knackered with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And he's the joker in the pack for us, because I was just thinking, if Connolly started and played, and then we needed a goal in the 79th minute and Connolly was taken off, who was going to come on and score?
But it turns out nobody, because it's not long enough for him to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, he had started a game where you would expect him to be chasing shadows against Spurs, and then it turns out he scored early and often. And it was like...
I think though, playing up front for Brighton, you're going to get more service than what a striker for
against
Ireland.
Georgia.
Yeah, but...
you shouldn't be. That's the point. Our expectations have been lowered so spectacularly that we should be able to go... It's the giving the ball away in midfield is the issue.
Yeah, completed 403 of those. We completed 292. This goes back to the last campaign, though. I remember the 1-1 draw when, under Martin O'Neill, in the first half of that game, we had 60 passes. No, you're right. The expectations are... anyone that's telling us this is a good result because Denmark were disgusted that they drew there.
They came off heartbroken.
And what did they do? They went and they beat Switzerland. Are we going to do the same?
Well, now we've no choice.
I don't think so. And this narrative of Mick McCarthy saying, if you told me when the draw was made a year ago that if we win in one of our last 2 games, we qualify. If we had won on Saturday, we wouldn't even need to win our last 2 games. 2 draws would do.
Yeah. We could have afforded to lose one of those games.
I just found Saturday was bad.
But Saturday was the archetypal. This is the manager that we have at the moment, and that's that's who he is, right? And I don't blame him, because ultimately that's exactly the level that Mick has managed at for his career. He hasn't been able to inspire teams to do better. People are going to point to Ipswich and their wage bills, but look, so one season in the Championship where they survived relegation, just about. Fair enough.
In one good season where they got to the playoffs with Ipswich, but that was built on Daryl Murphy being fit and available and scoring goals. But usually the norm there was mid-table.
But that performance at the weekend is at the end of the group, where he's had the team the whole time, where he's had the opportunity to go, right, this is what our philosophy is, this is how we're going to work things. And I don't know, Kenny was making the point that he saw some green shoots in how they're defending collectively. Fair enough,
and that's that's fine. I mean, defending is one aspect of the game, but you can't just keep drawing games. Are we going to draw our way to qualification? It doesn't look like it. We have to win one of our final 2 games. So the draws thing is gone now.
Yeah.
And,
all right.
I think they'd be better tomorrow, but he can't stick with the same midfield. He's given some of these lads too many chances.
He might well stick with the same. He's not a man that changes things. Well, anyway, what else is going on?
Yeah, well, we're going to spend the next week talking up Irish performances, but in Mick McCarthy and the Republic of Ireland, we only have a day of that. Obviously, tomorrow, we know if we win away to Switzerland, we qualify. We also know David McGoldrick won't be there, so Aaron Connolly could start. And England will qualify tonight if they beat Bulgaria in Sofia, and Kosovo failed to beat Montenegro. England could have done this last Friday, but they lost their first qualifier in 10 years away to the Czech Republic. Gareth Bale scored for Wales last night. They drew 1-1 at home to Croatia. So for them to finish in the top 2, they need to win their last 2 matches and hope that Slovakia drop points. Slovakia still have to play Croatia. All Blacks head coach Steve Hansen has set the tone early in the week ahead of Saturday's Rugby World Cup quarter-final in Tokyo. He has said that Joe Schmidt's attention to detail is a plus for Ireland, but he joked New Zealand could use that against us and said that it can be a strength, but it can be a weakness as well, and he might be able to set him up. We should find out as well later on if Bundy Aki is available. I don't think we hold out much hope, do we?
No, I don't. I think the whole point about this World Cup has been that they're trying to change the way the game is refereed and played, and there's a situation. Mind you, in the Japan game, there was what looked like not a million miles away from what happened, and it wasn't even a penalty or a yellow card.
Yeah, no, it would be quite a an overturn now if they said Bundy Aki can play.
I guess the difference in the Japan game was that it was face to face, so like it was clear that like he was, as opposed to where with Aki it's definitely shoulder.
Yeah, but look, at least Robbie Henshaw's back anyway. Busy day of county finals yesterday. I'll try and race through them. 6 Mile Bridge won their 4th Clare senior hurling title since 2013. They saw off their neighbours Cratloe by 21 points to 15 at Cusack Park. Ballygunner were crowned Waterford champions for the 6th year in a row. 124 to 115 win over Dallasall at Walsh Park. Clongish Gales won the Longford hurling final after a 119 to 10 points win over Longford Slashers. Tureen retained their Mayo hurling title with an 18 points to 113 win over Castle Bar. Nave Owen saw off Eastkeep by 112 to 12 points in the Sligo decider. Switching codes now, Portlaoise were crowned Laois County football champions for the 34th time. It's 3 in a row for them now after a 14 points to 2-7 win over Collection. 12th title in 13 years. Forban won the Offaly football title for the first time in 25 years. They beat Road 213 to 14 points. A first Roscommon senior title for Porrick Pierces. They beat Roscommon Gales by 210 to 110 at Dr. Hyde Park. Big comeback for Gary Castle in the second half in the Westmeath final. They came from 8 points down to beat St. Lomans of Mullingar by 213 to 3-6. Desi Dolan confirmed after that's his last Westmeath action. Eight county titles.
Well, surely he'll play a bit of. It's his last Westmeath
game, yeah.
He'll play a bit of Leinster Club.
See how they get on in the Leinster Club. In Cavan, Castlerahan beat Rammer United 1-9 to 10 points. Kilcoo were the down champions after a 112 to 14 points win over Warren Point. Glen Carmanor Hamilton edged out Ballinamore 16 points to 15 in the Leitrim final. Errigal Kieran were beaten by Trillock in the Tyrone final, 12 points to 2-4 in favour of Trillock. And in the Wexford final, Castletown saw off Gusseran by 3-16 to 2-10. And finally, just the Wicklow final was won by St. Patrick's. They beat Arklow Geraldines Ballymoney by 8 points to 7. Kenyan Bridget Koskai is the new world record holder in the women's marathon, a time of 2 hours, 14 minutes and 4 seconds. Broke a 16-year-old record held by Paula Ratcliffe, who was there at the line to see it all happen. And Petr Cech was named man of the match in his first game of ice hockey. He saved 2 penalties. The game ended 2-2, and he plays for Guildford. They beat Swindon Wildcats. And
Noel McCormack finished 5th in the Chicago Marathon as well.
That qualifies her for the Olympics as well.
That was a new PB for her as well.
Obviously as well, the 1 hour 59 minutes 40 seconds for Eliud Kipchoge in the set-up kind of marathon on
We're
Saturday.
also proud of him. Such a great achievement for sport.
I need to get a pair of those runners, Ger.
Yeah, I mean,
they're all wearing them.
Like that's all I need in my life is a pair of those runners, and I'm going to be sorted. Come here, the boxing at the weekend. Big weekend for Andy Lee. Paddy Sullivan made his full professional debut.
Yeah, 1 inside a round, and that's what he's probably going to do in the first few fights. Is get a few early wins and do it in style. And
the 2 lads looking mean there in the ring.
Yeah, I'd say he was delighted. I'd say it's done now, and they can both kind of move on. And just disappointing night for Paddy Barnes. He was beaten. You don't really know where he's going to go from here. TJ Doheny was in action over the weekend. He stopped his opponent, so he's back in the mix. We know Dennis Hogan's got a world title shot coming up, so there's plenty to talk about. I know Andy will be in with us for Off the Brawl this week, and we'll see what he has planned for Paddy in the next few months. I think they were talking anyway, another fight.
Quick, like every 8 weeks,
absolutely.
Every 3 months.
That was the plan for Joe Ward, unfortunately. That didn't go to plan when he popped his knee.
All right. Good stuff, Phil. Thanks very much for that. You done?
I am, yep.
All right. We're also delighted to say we've launched season 1 of our new documentary series, The Classic, on Off the Ball. The first 2 aired on Saturday and Sunday afternoon. First up was Eoin Sheahan's Brawl. We also brought you Champion, produced by Raf Diallo. Both documentaries are available via podcast and will be broadcast on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's only full-time sports radio station, available to listen over at offtheball.com/radio and the Go Loud app. Here's a clip from Brawl.
OTB presents The Classic, a new series of incredible sporting stories from Off the Ball.
So I went and raced from 25 metres, and the rest, as I say, is history.
One little spark in the goal mouth kicked the thing off. Then all of a sudden, it was like a forest fire. They were at it all around the place.
The spark happened, and I'm standing there and I'm saying, right, just go in and hit as many as I can.
Started in front of goal, and it was a sequel. That's John Casey down there. I think chipped it
and I had zero idea what was after happening. I think I could have actually got knocked out for a second or two.
I was actually about to close the headlock thing when John McDermott came in and hit me on the hip and just pushed me out of the way. So pushed me in the path of David Brady. David came in just swinging at everything, so he did.
I threw as many punches, I closed my eyes and threw as many punches as I could, whether it was my own men or Meath men.
It was like something you'd see outside supermarkets. Fellas were kicking and throwing haymakers and trying to knock fellas out. And some guys did get knocked out, but it was a real fight. Like it was.
Episode 1, this Sunday, October 13th on News Talk.
Yeah, so that one is live now. This one is Champion, produced by Raf Diallo.
OTB presents The Classic, a new series of incredible sporting stories from off the ball.
Yeah, well, you do worry, and always if I was at the race meetings, of course, and I'd be standing in the pit road waiting, I always said my prayers, and I knew he was doing what he wanted to do, but it wasn't easy to sit there and watch, you know. Yeah, you did worry. But you know, I've often thought about this, and like accidents in motorsport are very, very rare. And I know everyone says, oh, motorsport, that's very dangerous and all, but look at rugby, what's been happening. You can be badly hurt in boxing, whatever. It's hard to say. Looking back on it, would we let him do it again? Probably not. Of course not. If we knew what lay ahead, I certainly wouldn't give him my blessing.
Episode 2, this Sunday, October 13th on News Talk.
Yeah, you can get the podcast of that on the Go Loud app, or you can get it on offtheball.com/podcast. Now, that's it from us this morning at 9:35. If you've missed anything from the show, sports pages, Eoin Japan, Kenny Cunningham on Ireland against Switzerland, Richie in Geneva, Rugby with Alan Quinlan and the All Blacks with Chris Rattue. You can catch the full podcast back on offtheball.com/podcast, so you can watch it back on our YouTube channel. You should subscribe to that, because every time we go live, we'll send you a little notification and you won't miss any of our good stuff. Tonight on Off the Ball, live from 7 o'clock, Monday Night Rugby, the football show, and much more. We'll see you tomorrow morning on OTB AM at 7:30. Good luck.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.